Hello dear viewers, support me by subscribing to my channel and share my video if you like it, and also make sure you comment your thoughts. Now let's start the video. I was prepared for what is to come. Most of the last year I have been spent honing my body and mind while gathering a bigger army to prepare for the challenges ahead. Whether I like it or not, I was the so-called champion of light, the one who will journey beyond the wall and guarantee the safety of my family and humanity of the winter zombie apocalypse, that for reasons yet to be fully disclosed to me, a demon was helping them. With that in mind, I sigh as I enter the training area I had set for my men while we waited for the supplies and ships to travel to Lights, and found Daenerys waiting for me. With a smile I approach her. She was big, and while she thought and considered she was fat, I only saw her shining more and more every day. "How are you three doing?" "Very funny," Daenerys giggled. "Nothing. Just waiting for you." "I see," I smiled, taking a seat beside her. "Soon we will be marching to Lice, and we'll stay there for a bit, at least until the birth." Medicine here was not exactly precise. She was pregnant, and our estimate was that she was around 6 to 7 months. So after conquering Lice, I would take a break to ensure she had the babies on a controlled environment. The last thing I wanted was to have my babies be born in the middle of a siege. Daenerys shifted in her chair. She wanted to say something. I've been long enough with her to notice these little things. She wanted to talk and was gathering her thoughts. "I want to help you more." "Elaborate?" I asked with my eyebrows raised. "She helped me enough, didn't she?" "I want to talk some of the load you have," Daenerys sighed. "You are always going to war, fighting, organizing your men, and all I do is stay and wait for you. I want to help you. We are supposed to be partners." Oh, she wanted more responsibilities. Well, I don't see anything wrong with that. If she saves me the problem of paperwork, I would love her even more. "Sure, I do the fighting, you do the talking." "That's a start, but now that we have dragons, in the future," Daenerys started, but I stopped her. I knew what she wanted to say. "We have dragon. That one day will be rideable. So that way I can help you in battle." "Abso-fucking-lutely not." "Why?" Daenerys asked with a dry tone. "An arrow can kill you, or you can fall off them. I know they love you, but that's a chance. And what would our kids do without you?" I said, trying to ignite her motherly love to stop this nonsensical idea.
"And what if you die?"
Daenerys asked with cold steel eyes. She was determined to convince me. This was the dragoness that the books showed. I said that already. I can't die. And then a fucking shadow was close to show me the error of that arrogant comment. "You can't die. Yes, you said that already." Daenerys sighed, putting her small hand on my face. "I love you and I want to protect you. I want to protect our children, our family. I want to protect us." I didn't know what to tell her. No matter how convincing her arguments were, my mind was set. Let's talk about this once they get to flying size. Until then, I don't want to hear about it. For now, I wanted to avoid the subject. Daenerys sighed. "I will protect you and our family, whether they want it or not." And for the first time since our marriage, we had come to an impasse. She was determined to do as she pleased with this. "A queen takes what she wants, didn't you tell me?" Daenerys eyed me with a pseudo-angry smirk. "I did, but you really underestimate my ability to stop you, my queen." I smirked back. "Like you, nothing will stop me from protecting you and our family, so I suppose we'll see." "We will," Daenerys nodded, with a piercing glare that said, "I won't drop this subject, I will protect you." "Very well," I smiled, giving her the same look. "Not if I protect you first." This would be a long month, while I waited for my ships, a month of discussions about this. Hooray for married life. Cersei Lannister POV. Ned Stark had escaped the dungeon, right beneath our noses. He had left and no one knew how. He didn't have allies nor visitors in King's Landing, and yet he escaped like he had the fucking key to the door. Varys had his best spies working on the case. But nothing. Lord Stark had disappeared like he was a fucking faceless man. Father was gonna kill me once he got here. Without Ned Stark, we had nothing to ensure the North staying loyal, and with Stannis raising his fucking banners, and the North would surely support him now. We had no allies now, but it didn't matter. We are the lions, and we preserve against anything, for we are the mightiest ones. "My queen," the disgusting voice of the eunuch got my attention. "Varys, any news about Lord Stark?" I said bitterly. "Rumors are he is traveling hiding as a merchant to avoid any suspicion, but considering all the time he has been out of his cell, it is fair to assume he is on enemy lines." Varys stated once again the obvious. Any news about when father is coming? I wanted to break my cup of wine and cut his fat neck. He was supposed to know more, to help more. Why did we even pay him? He is to arrive in a fortnight, my queen, Varys informed. I had 2 weeks before I was belittled by father for letting the wolf escape the lion's den. Very well, I sighed, as I filled my cup of wine. Keep me updated, and do your job better. Joffrey Baratheon POV. The insolent worm, the worm with wolf fur had escaped. This can't be, this can't be. My fiancé had escaped before too, my toy had escaped, and now my other toy had escaped toy. Unforgivable, unforgivable, now my uncle wanted to oppose me. I was chosen by the gods, unforgivable, and that peasant that thinks he can be king because he married the dragon bitch, unacceptable. My king, are you okay? One of my king's guard inquired. Worried? For what? Why would someone so much lower than me feel anything but total admiration and devotion for me? I want Ned Stark in my hands, and I want him now, I shouted. My face was red, boiling in anger. We are doing our best to find him, my king's guard said solemnly. I didn't want his best, I wanted my toys back. I don't want your efforts, I want the Starks at my feet. As they bleed out, I spat, leaving the room. Or I'll have your head, old man. Caw, this motherfucker is crazy. How many times that bitch dropped his egg? She practically brooded a scrambled egg. I rather deal with the other idiot. This bitch is unstable as fuck. Fuck, this shit, I'm out. Caw, unbeknownst to everyone. A mysterious raven, with an eye patch, was seeing everything with his one mighty eye, as he decided it was better to continue helping Lord Stark, instead of spying this bitch. Ned Stark POV. It had taken me a while, but I managed to get out of that wretched place. But I had to avoid getting caught or recognized, so I cut my hair off and changed my clothes with those of a beggar I found. At the moment, I was traveling with a merchant to River Run. From there things would turn for the best. I would finally be back with my family. Wait for me, I muttered to myself, holding the hope I would be once again reunited with my family. Captain Stark POV. Ned had escaped, and now it was a mission of who caught him first. Life or death, depending on who did it. War was looming above us, no matter what, even if Ned didn't want to, and to top the things that were happening, the bear had proven to be a treacherous creature, betraying us by marrying the Targaryen girl, raising his banners to take the throne. He was a threat. I always knew something about him wasn't right. He made his house close relationships with ours, and by killing Theon and taking control of his homeland, which meant we didn't have the support of the Iron Islands, nor the Bear Islands, things we would have without him. Justice will prevail, and those who wrong us will pay. I had faith things would turn in our favor soon. 2 weeks later. My campsite is fairly simple at the moment, looking like a copy of the shit show of Vase Dothrak. My tent is cozy enough for me, Daenerys and 3 baby dragons, that sleep by the fire. For now, all I have to do is wait. My ships will arrive soon, and things will fall into place. But only having to wait doesn't mean I have to do just that. It's light outside, a good time to explore and relax for a bit. Time to explore a bit, I smiled, as I walked out of my tent, being brutally stopped by Neltharion, who hissed at me, practically saying, "You are going out without me, not a chance. You are quite the clingy dragon, are you?" I chuckled as I allowed the little dragon to climb up my back. "Jeez," Neltharion hissed happily, once he reached my neck and got in a comfortable position. "I really hope you don't get like big dogs that never understand their size." I shuddered to think what would happen if Neltharion tried the same thing, but being several tons fatter. "Hey, let's..." Neltharion hissed in confusion, not really understanding me. "Well, let's go," I sighed, as I walked out the tent, not before leaving a note to Daenerys, saying, "I'll be back by dinner. I need to stretch my legs. Love you." As I happily step away from my campsite, alert and scanning the ground and sky for danger, with Neltharion doing the same. I walked for the better part of an hour, being sure to have fun along the way, but my mind even here still drifted off to my duties as a leader and a husband. It worries me that Daenerys is so close to giving birth, and there is a chance something might happen to her during the birth. She never gave birth in the show, so I had nothing to compare what was going to happen soon, and it was totally terrifying. Neltharion starts to purr, almost like a cat, like reassuring me nothing bad will happen, but the idea still sets me off. "You are right, buddy. I need to stay positive," I chuckled as I continued with my little time-off adventure. "You are on Greyjoy POV. The Iron Islands had been taken by House Mormont. That was unexpected to say the least. For what I could gather, he had a massive army, and had amassed a lot of money. Taking what is mine would take more than I would like to admit. And rumors about him going to Essos and conquering the Dothraki were spiraling like crazy. So while I wanted to kill the bastard, I had to bide my time, and find allies to destroy him. Maybe ally with the Lannisters. Whoever wanted him dead would work just fine. I could offer the Queen my cock and the navy she desires, in that exact order. He mocks the drowned god, calling himself the Chosen One, but I don't recall choosing him. I am the drowned god, from Old Town to Korth. When men see my sails, they pray, and he will pray. Back to Runard. After a couple of hours hunting and chilling in the plains, I decided it was time to go back to my campsite. It was a great day. Neltharion seemed to really enjoy the hunting experience, even though he had no power to actually hunt. But regardless, he had helped, or at least he thought he had, by hissing at the numerous prey we encountered. "How about we take this, so they can cook it for us?" I inquired, petting Neltharion softly on his head. His Neltharion hissed, in something that could be translated as, "Fuck yeah." "Very well," I chuckled, taking the food we had gathered and putting it on my back, making Neltharion shift his position to fit better. As I walked back to the camp, I pondered how I would feel with the crown in my head. Would I feel any different from now, or would it feel the same? Threats would certainly be better contained, and I would have more freedom to live. One thing was for sure, I wanted to melt that throne. That shit had only shattered this world, and besides, it looked mighty uncomfortable. As I was deep in thought, the sound of hooves approaching snapped me out of my long reverie. "My cow, you left without us," my blood rider said, somewhat insulted. "They were supposed to be my shadows, and I left them behind." I was hunting, wanted some time alone. I eyed him with a glare that said, "I appreciate the gesture, but fuck off. But now that you are here, take this back to the camp. It will be my dinner." Hiss. "Our dinner," I added. My blood riders nodded, as they took the prey I was carrying on my back, giving a horse to ride back. I got back to the campsite where one of my ravens was waiting for me with a message from my navy. They apparently were going to arrive earlier than I anticipated, in just 1 week's time. Which worked for best, considering I wanted to take control of lives before Daenerys got to the birth part. "How was your little adventure?" Daenerys inquired, entering the war tent. "It was fine," Neltharion really enjoyed the trip, more so than me. I smiled, seeing the baby dragon sleeping on my desk. "He seems really attached to you," Daenerys giggled. "Maybe as a sign you'll be a great dad." "I sure hope so, because mine suck, both in this and my past life." "We are not our fathers," Daenerys smiled soothingly. "I'm not mad and you're not an idiot. I guess." I smiled. "Any news?" Daenerys inquired. "Our navy will arrive in a week," I informed her. I had yet to ask my ravens for the status report of what was happening in Westeros. "Lace, I heard the call at the City of Pleasure." Daenerys smiled. "Seems appropriate to have our kids there. Not as appropriate to have them in our home, but this will do." "Soon," I reassured. Soon that crown would be in our heads. "Soon," Daenerys sighed happily. After getting the update to what was going on in Westeros, I was a tad surprised. It seems I had saved Ned Stark from his imminent demise. Lord Varys had delivered what he was asked to. In a different way, I didn't make a deal for Lord Stark, but for his daughters, and because they didn't need to be saved, Varys simply filled that debt with the next best thing, their father. Clever little man. He either has an inkling I'm mad at him, and because of that he is trying to buy me over, or he is just being extra careful to not owe me anything. Poor little man. Only death awaits him. He put my children on the line, and that was unforgivable. And to add to my list of idiots, there was Catelyn Stark. She was already on the list, but got to the top 10 really fast, saying I will feel the retribution of House Stark, quite the big words for someone with zero power. I can't wait to see her kneeling in my name, I chuckled, imagining how much she would suffer kneeling to someone she once was more powerful. Cersei Lannister POV. Father had arrived, and like I predicted, he wasn't happy at all. You let our only bargaining chip slip between your fingers, Father growled, smashing his fist on the table, fissuring the wood just a bit. I didn't allow anything. Someone helped him. Someone inside our ranks, I informed him, trying to keep my mind cool, because no matter how powerful I felt, I still feared Father, the most powerful man in Westeros. I didn't get one single competent child. One is an idiot, the other a monster, and you think you are smart, but you are nothing. Father growled. I wouldn't say, the queen. I was a queen. How dare he? I was still the queen. Of nothing. Father slapped me. We have no allies, no bargaining chips. We have nothing. All we have is my army and my money. So you'll do what I say if you want to win. Am I clear? Crystal, I muttered, feeling my face burning with pain and anger. But he was right. Without him, we have no chance. Good, and please control the mad dog you have as a child before I do it, Father added, and you know full well how I do stuff. I gulped. Yes, Father, as I nodded between gritted teeth. I wrenched my eyes wide open, the sound of my ravens waking me up. It probably was time to the coast, for when my ships arrived, I stared for a second at the black-colored ceiling of my tent, really wishing I could sleep a few more seconds, but sadly I have kingly duties to attend to. Well, time to see the sore losers. Yesterday I had a drinking contest with my men, and I had drunk enough alcohol to kill 2 elephants. But because my body metabolism is so efficient in processing toxins and other stuff, my body rendered alcohol useless. I do get tipsy though, but it takes a while. With a smile I jumped off the bed, making sure Daenerys was sleeping soundly, and everyone but Neltharion stayed sleeping. For he notices that I'm leaving and climbs up to my shoulder, looking at me like I was about to betray him and leave. Let's go, buddy, I chuckled, while I petted the little dragon on my shoulder as I walked out. Outside I could see my man walking by, eating and drinking, but I wasn't here to admire their basic routines, so with a deep breath of annoyance, mostly because the sunlight was hurting me, for not sleeping enough, I started to walk up to my raven. Call. The ships are arriving at Pentos in 10 days. We have to move. Call. My raven informed me as soon as I was in front of him, it was time to start marching, but there was a chance Bravos would see an army that big, marching towards Pentos as a threat, and attack me, preemptively. To avoid ruining my plan I would have to separate my army, to show them I was no threat to them, leaving a part with my wife at least while I got my ships, the ones coming and the ones I had left on the coast with Viserys. Talking about Viserys, I wonder how is the little waste of Kummas doing. I do hope he is wishing to die at this point. Viserys Targaryen POV. Total and absolute disgrace. I had been forced into the most deplorable situation, but the day of my retribution would come. I would kill that bastard for what he had done. He would pay. I knew sooner or later my allies would break me free. The sames that Ilio said that had secret toasts on my name. They were soon to rescue me. I knew I could feel it. I was their rightful king, and they loved me. It was simply a matter of time, to bring that treacherous snake down, and take what is mine, what belongs to me, my sister and my throne. Back to Ronard POV. My army was composed of 80,000 men or so, but to get my ship I would travel back with only 5,000 men, right about the same amount I had before starting with gathering the Dothraki. It has been quite a while since I last saw Illyrio. I wonder if he still fears me. I suppose there is only one way to find out, if he still does. You are in charge of everyone here, I had informed all my men, that while I was gone her words were the law. Poor those who disobey their queen, Daenerys giggled. I'll be fine, be safe. I will, I nodded, giving her a goodbye kiss. She would be safe. She had an army few could even hope to match, and a pair of baby dragons ready to bite for her. Neltharion was coming with me. He didn't care for reason. He really imprinted in me, in a cute but obsessive way. It would take me a couple weeks to reach Pentos, if we didn't encounter any problems, but considering I outnumbered any of the remaining Dothraki tribes, I was good if anyone wanted to raid me. In fact, I welcomed it. That way they would save me the time to go out and look for them. Quite the trouble. Let's go, I ordered as we marched to Pentos. Mid-Stark POV. It has been quite a while since I escaped out of King's Landing, thanks to Renard. So far my merchant caravan had been moving slowly, but I was safe after all. No one suspected the helper that was working with them, unloading the boxes and items, was actually the lord everyone was looking for. Almost 3 weeks of traveling, where I was on constant paranoia I would be captured, or something would happen, 3 weeks where I had to be completely alert. But after all that, I was finally here at Riverrun, the ancestral seat of House Tully. I could feel a smile forming on my face as I saw the castle as we descended. A few more miles and I would be reunited with my family, freedom within my grasp. I had to give something to these merchants. They helped me, even though they didn't have to. They know I had risked their lives for this very moment of peace and tranquility. I'm coming home, I muttered with an uncontrollable smile on my face. This moment of happiness would end quite fast. The moment I arrived, I would be dragged into this war of schemes and backstabbing I have so desperately tried to avoid. I would have to support Stannis on his claim. He was the rightful heir, and yet I owe Renard my life. I was bound by honor to Stannis, and by gratitude to Renard. What can I do? Robb Stark, father had escaped a while ago, and we had yet to find him. With him the North would be whole again. Our family would be whole again. I have tried to be strong, to show I have no fear, and will bring the justice the North deserves. But I was afraid I would lose everyone I loved in this war. Stannis wanted us to bend the knee, but I had agreed with the lords to wait for father's answers, as he was the one who spoke for the North as a whole. But Stannis and the Lannisters aren't our only threat. Renard was a pretty prominent one, that was more and more dangerous every day. He's been increasing his army and resources at an alarming speed. Rumors say he already has an army big enough to take on the North and all its banners. He didn't even take his time to get a new fiancée. He was a power-hungry man that needed to be taken down, quoting Mother, and maybe she was right. He killed Dan like a dog, brutally punching him to the death. So maybe Mother was right, maybe he was a monster, one that I would have to take care of. That's what I would want to say, but I've seen him fight. I know I can't best him in combat. But with Grey Wind he stands no chance. No man is stronger than a direwolf. Friend or foe, if you take a wrong step, I will end you. I sighed. For I was a wolf that would go to hell and back to protect his pack. An idiot he is, if in then wolf depending he is. Yours unbeknownst to him, a very wise raven with a Jedi cape, was watching him carefully.
But Joffrey Baratheon POV.
Nothing. No results. Nothing. How could they be so insolent, to disobey their king? I said I wanted Lord Stark, and he is not here. They deserve to pay for this. Yes. They do. They have broken a royal order, and life is the only payment I will accept. Their pain will clean them. I want all my royal guard dead, for their incompetence, I said with a wide smile. I knew grandfather would support me. He understood how to rule correctly. You won't do such a thing, Tywin sighed. Who the hell he thinks he is to deny a king of his wish? That was an order, I shouted, anger boiling in my core as I gritted my teeth, but I was soon enough greeted by a slap. You'll do well to remember who is keeping you on that throne, boy. Tywin said. His cold eyes and demeanor were more frightening. I was a king. He can't do this. You can't. I was about to complain, but a glare from Tywin was more than enough to shut me up. I can, and I will. Behave like a king, and I will follow. Until then, sit and let me keep you in the throne. Am I clear? Tywin asked with a condescending tone. With Renard on our back and Stannis on our front, we need every able man. We can't throw resources we don't have, just because you want to, not now. Renard? That coward. If he was such a threat, he would be here feeling the taste of my blade. Renard is no threat. Once the time comes, I will cut his head and show him the power of a true king, maybe with a duel. He is a threat, even bigger than Stannis, and his brother, he's been playing the game without losing so far, more than we can say. Certainly better than you, so don't think for a second that pretty crown in your head will shrink the massive gap in skill between you and him. And always remember, kings can always fall, Tywin said with a cold tone. He really thought that bastard was better than me, that he could best me in anything. Unacceptable. I was superior to Renard in every way. I am better. I was about to rebut this ludicrous statement, but grandfather stopped me. I have a kingdom to keep under you, so shut up and let me. Tywin said as he left the throne room, not before adding, I don't have time to waste, especially not with your tantrums. And Elena Tyrell POV. War, men were such predictable creatures, fighting for power, money and women, but I had to be fair. Some fought for other men, like Renly was fighting because of the soft whispers of my grandson. What a foolish little boy, and what's even more foolish is Mace, that thinks the poor lad will win the throne and make Margaery his queen. Even if he won this war, which was hardly unlikely, he would most likely put Loras as his queen. The thought of it really puts on a new perspective, but it won't get to that. Renly is all talk but little show. Yet here we are too deep into the gutter to escape it now. We must see it through. Every time Mace makes a decision by himself, Consequences of catastrophic magnitudes follow through. In this family only the roses have thorns, and men are no roses. Mace was too dumb to see we had bigger problems, that it was best if we didn't get into this war so early on. But men rarely do see things outside their narrow point of view. Ronard Mormont. He was a better candidate to ally ourselves with. After taking care of his wife, he would be free to marry Marjorie. Accidents happen after all, and while he came from a small house, the lad was terrifying. In many aspects, economically, and in war potential. He was the best of his generation, by far. Rumors say he has an army of over 80,000 soldiers he himself has conquered, and other most unbelievable rumors say he has 3 dragons. If everything they said was correct, he was the one we needed on our side. Frankly, things like this just reassure my point. Men should not rule. I sighed. Jon Snow, POV. War had started, my family was in danger, father was missing, so many things, but I was held by blood and honor to the night watch. But if I had known this would happen, I would have stayed with them. I would have my sword ready to fight for Robb. Father taught me honor comes before anything, before family, before love. The least a bastard like me could do was honor his teachings, and hope everything goes well. Lord Snow, move your ass. We need you. My commander-in-charge shouted. Yes, sir. Ned Stark POV. I was finally within friends and family. Halster Tully and his son Edmure Tully recognized me. I didn't even have to prove it was me. After a long talk about how I managed to escape and my journey, they left me to rest for a bit to recover myself from all this. They of course had sent a raven to inform my family of my current whereabouts. It would take a couple of days for us to hear back from them, but soon they would know I was safe and sound here. Oster was surprised to say the least when he heard Ronard had been the one to save me from the imminent death that awaited me. Honor, gratitude. Without Ronard I would be dead, but if I went back on my honor. Things are never easy on war. I would have to end up betraying someone, and in both paths I would lose something. Lord Stark, supper is ready, a maid said entering the room. I was given. I'll be there in a few, I nodded. Ronard Mormont POV. After leaving my wife 2 weeks ago, with an army to protect her should anything arise that would threaten her safety, I started to make my way to Pentos. By now I could see the city from afar. If I had to take an estimate, I would say I was a few hours away from it. A few hours away from my men and ships. With that in mind, I speed up our pace, so as to make sure we didn't waste any time. On this march we weren't here for tourism anyway. The last time I was in this city I left with nothing but my self-proclaimed title of kingship, and now I had come back with a new title, the king of the Dothraki tribes, the Great Khal, the Great Stallion. That last one was a tad weird coming from the mouth of a man. Regardless, I was someone of greater importance. Braavos must consider me a threat regardless of what I do, but they were overconfident. After all, no one would dare to oppose them. They had more money than the 7 kingdoms, and the entirety of Essos together, which was in statement of how powerful they were economically speaking. After all, they had the Iron Bank on their side, and it is the wealthiest bank of the known world that is known, because it often lends money to outsiders, such as the lords of the 7 kingdoms. The bank is also famous for its discretion and secrecy. No one knows where they are truly located, and or where they save their money. They are also feared. Even the Lannisters fear opposing them, for a common saying among the Braavosi is the Iron Bank will have its due. If someone happened to fail payment, the Iron Bank would sponsor someone to take their enemies down. But unlike others, I would succeed in taking every penny they had. I had my ravens investigating where the bank was truly located, and where the money was stored. I expected to know the answer by the moment it was time to march against them. Let's go. We have some ships to move, I shouted in a happy tone. Arya Stark POV. Of life or death, I feared my father would not come back. I feared I would lose my family to those bastards ruling, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. A lady can do and be anything she pleases. A housewife or a trained killer, whatever you do, it makes it ladylike. Don't let narrow-minded individuals to tell you otherwise, for their minds are weak, and we don't follow the weak. The voice of Ronard, that time we spent together during his betrothal ceremony, echoed in my head. He was right. I might not be able to do anything now, but I will soon. If I keep training and honing my water dancing skills, I will be able to help my family, to save my friends and to kill my enemies. Too bad Sansa couldn't marry him. He was a decent guy. Mother keeps saying he is our enemy, but I don't believe it. Like always, Mother must be wrong. He would never hurt us. Not without a reason. Varys POV. Lord Stark had finally gotten out of the lion's den. He was finally with his family, albeit politically. Nonetheless, he was immensely more safe that he could have been here. I wonder, will he support the young bear or the old stag? I did put him on an inner conundrum when I revealed why I was helping him. I wanted to see his resolve. Would his honor to Robert bound him to Stannis, or would his gratitude to Ronard push him to forsake his misplaced honor? Things would surely prove more difficult for the wolf, whatever his choice was. With Renard on the Targaryen side, Aegon was sure to take up the throne eventually, and if Renard did not compel, he had already put babies inside Daenerys. He wasn't needed anymore should he prove to be against the rightful ruler. Though this was easier said than done, he was the most informed in the world, possibly even more than me. So if I had to take a guess, it was most likely he already knew of my true intentions. If so, I had to play safe, or I would wake up dead. I had to throw him off his game. Whether he was a friend or a foe, to Aegon, it was still to be seen. He keeps getting more and more dangerous. Daenerys POV. Ronard had left almost 2 weeks ago, to gather our ships, so we could start our conquest, and eventually take what's rightfully mine, rightfully ours. At this point, surprises were a common occurrence with him. He united a tribe of savages under one banner, our banner. He brought creatures thought to extinct back to life, and had become one of the greatest warriors of this generation, all in the span of 16 years. He had accomplished so more, including winning my undying love. So this chance he had given me to lead his army on his absence. This chance I would prove him I was more than a decorative queen. That I too could make our enemies tremble with our mere name, that I could protect him, just as he protected me. Kuro and Rhaegal were key parts of that, for when the time came, I would ride them into battle and burn our enemies. I would not let anyone hurt my family, not again, for I was the Dragon Queen. Illyrio welcomed me to Pentos with open arms and fearful eyes. Just as I expected, he still remembered our little personal chat, to some degree. I knew he was still double playing, but for now he would be allowed to live. He still had some use. My sources have gathered that Aegon is gathering allies, but struggling to keep up with me. All he had for the moment was John Connington, Varys and Illyrio on his side. His location was still unknown for me, as all the information I had gathered about him came from Varys and Illyrio during their secret exchanges, and both had been very careful not to say where he was, even during their little chats. Perhaps Varys was catching on with me, or they were really secretive to keep the so-called rightful king safe. I had no hard feelings for Aegon. In fact, I would give the option to just surrender and take Dragonstone, and keep the Targaryen bloodline, but I knew he would not take that offer. After all, any man with a possible claim for power would fight to the death to claim it. He would fight me even if he knew it was a lost cause. But in the end, wasting time thinking of him was utterly pointless. He was the least of my concerns, a man without an army. Though I had to admit his existence puzzled me. Before I discovered how deep Varys' plots reached and heard of him, I had completely ignored his existence. I remember vaguely reading about him in the second book, and how they couldn't really confirm he was who he said he was. I suppose burning him would prove if his dragon heritage was what he said it was, and solve the mystery. I have provided your men with all the things you requested, Illyrio smiled, bringing back to the real world outside my head. Oh, as diligent as ever, I nodded. Food and medical supplies were two of the few things I really needed to ensure my army stayed healthy and powerful. Ignoring Illyrio the rest of the way, I walked to the Bay of Pentos with my army behind. My blood riders were glaring at anyone that even dared to look at me, but while the thought of them being protective was nice and all, in reality this was how Dothraki acted to strangers. Neltharion was undercover inside my fur jacket, sleeping soundly around my covered neck. I was waiting for the perfect moment to show him off to Illyrio and see his expression of suffering when he realizes the dragon eggs he sold me hatched. It would be fantastic to experience his dismay. What can I say? I have no sympathy for the Magister. For the king. A man shouted, jumping from behind, trying to stab me with a knife dripping something. I didn't have to be a genius to know it was poison. Everything around me slowed down as I smiled. It has been quite a while since I had such a blatant assassination attempt, but before I can even reach my blade and kill the poor man that was highly misinformed of how hard this would be, my blood rider cut his head with his arrow. Such a weak man does not deserve to stain the blade of our cow, my blood rider said, spitting on the corpse of the assassin. I smiled at him. While I wanted to deal with the attempt myself, it was also nice to see I had competent men under my banner. Amazing work with an impressive clean cut. I smiled as I looked at Illyrio, who at this point was sweating his own weight per second. Did he have something to do with this? Hardly. Varys would stage something with more brain behind it. This was not Varys' craft. Ergo Illyrio had nothing to do with this, but I thought he had, so fear was filling his very core. It's alright, Illyrio, I smiled, deciding to mess with him another time. The assassin is death, no need to be afraid. With that I returned with my walk, leaving the corpse of the assassin to rot in the market, as I continued to ignore Illyrio, as I chuckled inwardly at his earlier reaction. Tyrion Lannister POV. The throne seemed to be 50% off, with everyone going for it. It was all I could think of. Stannis Baratheon, Renly Baratheon, Renard Mormont, all that was left was for the whores to try and claim the throne. We had so many enemies that if father somehow pulled the wind out of his gold-shitting ass, it would surprise me, but in all fairness, if someone could do impossible things through questionable means was father. The how still eluded me though, but for some reason, father wanted me to be the new master of coin, discarding Peter Baelish of his positions. Quoting father, the man was as trusty as knife through the heart, and he was needed elsewhere, outside where he could not damage more the throne. And because of that, I was solving unsolvable economical problems that really put into perspective who the hell chooses the people in this small council. Oh yeah, the last king. I suppose that answers a lot. We were in debt with the Iron Bank by an absurdly large amount, and with our enemies on the other side of the sea, we were most likely to pay our dues by their sword. After all, the Iron Bank was famous for financing the enemies of those who have not paid them. And we have not paid them. But things were starting to improve a bit. Euron Greyjoy had come to talk to me. Well, my father about an alliance. He wanted in exchange of his help that we helped him take the Iron Islands. And here I was sealing our alliance. We needed all the allies we could gather. So, do we have a deal, imp? Euron smiled, stretching up his hand. We do, I smiled, taking his hand. Euron Greyjoy POV. Making a deal with the Lannisters to take back what is mine and more was something I decided on the go. If things went bad for the Lannisters, I would just bail out and leave them hanging. So it was a win-win for me. Nothing to lose, much to gain. Just how I like it. And if I get to fuck the queen along the way, that would be just a bonus, the cherry on the top. But then again, how many queens were there? I had a lot to fuck. Cersei Lannister, Margaery Tyrell, and of course the rare delicacy of Daenerys Targaryen. Maybe after all of this ends and their respective men or protector are dead, I can show them a cock worthy of a crown. My own whorehouse, with nothing but queens. I like the sound of that. I wonder if the little dragoness will like the taste of a kraken better. Oh, I smiled, as I imagined her little white-colored head between my legs choking on my cock. Well, if she doesn't, I can always dip my cock on his blood, so she can taste her husband in me. Unbeknownst to him, a raven with an eye patch and a black leather robe was watching him, and listening to his suicidal talk. This motherfucker be dead, and he doesn't even know it. Stannis Baratheon POV. Melisandre said, I was the chosen one, the one that would bring the realm together. And yet all I had was opposition. The North had yet to allied with me. My own foolish brother was rising against me, and the rising minor lord of the Bear Islands was also going for the throne. But my Red Witch was right. There were fakes, betrayers. The God of Light had assured me that the throne would be mine, and that they were nothing but shadows I had to cast away to prove I was worthy of his blessing. And I was, because I was the rightful king of the Seven Kingdoms, and I would have my throne, for I was the prince that was promised. Victory was written in my destiny. The fire had spoken of my victory before. Nothing will stop me, I stated, as a matter of fact. Nothing will, my king. Melisandre nodded in approval. The fire has shown me of your victory. All those fakes will fall to your mighty feet. The sound of one of my men knocking at my door woke me up. It probably meant two things. Either we were close or someone was stupid enough to attack us in the sea. So with curiosity, I hastily dressed up as I scrambled over to the deck to confirm which one was it. Happy for either of the two. My king, we are 2 hours away from the coast close to Lyce. The captain of my ship stated, pointing with his finger to the map in front of him. Very well, I nodded. It seemed one of my suspicions was right, and I would be reunited with Daenerys soon. It has been almost a month since I last saw her. She must have that beautiful baby bum bigger than when I left her. My first priority was getting a base in Essos, and Lys would suffice for many purposes. It was on the sea, so it was easily protectable, and it was located close to the Pentos, so travel would be a breeze. But the one reason that moved me to get this city as fast as I could was that I didn't really know how much time Daenerys would need to recover. After childbirth, she would be having twins, and the medical state of this world was quite lacking, but I would give her all the time she needed on a protected environment. And Lys was the perfect place for that. A mercantile city, built on a very fertile island that was very good for agriculture, and that at one point was considered a tropical paradise by old Valyrian dragon lords. This beautiful sunny island would serve as the safe haven I was looking for my wife and kid. Quite poetic that one of the latest dragon ladies is coming back to the island. But things were easier said than done, and conquering may or may not present its challenges. My ravens had said Lys is protected by high walls and hired sellswords. Both navy and land, the navy would be a piece of cake to destroy, but I had yet to see if their army would prove a bigger challenge. After all, numbers don't always win wars. But I would find a way. Victory would be mine, one way or another. But in many aspects, it was the right choice. Conquering Lys would make me infinitely richer than I was before. Because, politically speaking, the city was dominated by wealth rather than by birth. So in short, there were no lords, just rich merchants with tons of gold begging to be mine. Apparently, Lys is a place where trade is considered a profession more honorable than being a knight. But that wasn't all the city was known for. They were renowned in the world for their pleasure gardens and temples dedicated to pleasure that are said to have the best whores in the known world. I already knew where my men would spend their gold after the conquer. Let me know once the land is in sight, I told my men, leaving to my quarters inside the ship. As I walked to my room, I pondered about how Viserys would react to the dragons and everything. He was still alive. I had yet to see him, but he was on one of the ships, still in his cell eating whatever my men decide to give him. I wonder if Daenerys will kill him, I chuckled. Daenerys Targaryen, POV. I had moved the army to the coast, where we would set camp while we waited for Reynard to arrive with the ships. Rhaegal and Krell had been anxious since Reynard wasn't close. They really missed their dad. He was the one that hatched them. I was starting to actually feel the pregnancy affecting me. My baby bum oven, as Reynard calls it, had grown a lot these past few days. The twins had decided to expand their poor mother and see how bendy her skin and belly were. But even with all this, I can't help but love my little chimeras, as Reynard calls them. Half bears, half dragons. Whatever they would be, it would be unique and awesome. I just knew it. Mikey Usse, Reynard's father Jorah Mormont, entered my tent, kneeling, not daring to look at my eyes. Reynard had left quite the impression on him, as he should. We can't forgive those who wrong us, but we can make them pay. What do you want? I questioned the disgusting leech, coldly. I want to redeem myself for what I did in the past. Jorah took a deep breath. I want to offer my blade to be your knight. I want to be your shield should your life ever need one. I want to be of some use to my grandchildren. His grandchildren. He lost that right and privilege the moment they left my husband alone, in a broken kingdom, where anarchy and betrayal rule, and the only way to survive is being the bigger monster. Your life is where is needed. So don't think so highly of yourself, I said while Rhaegar and Crow hissed at him as if agreeing with me. You are but a stain on my husband's history, and stains can be removed. So do use that brain of yours and remind your place. By this point, ravens has entered my tent, many of them all glaring at Jorah as if awaiting my command to attack. Next time you disobey your king's orders, and come and talk to me, I will deliver my husband your head on a silver platter. Is that clear? Crystal my queen. Ned Stark POV. My family was on their way to pick me up. Well, Cat was. My son was holding the army together, and my daughters were in Winterfell alongside Bran and Rickon, safe and protected as they should be. I couldn't wait to hold my son and hug him. I couldn't wait to kiss my wife. And most of all, I couldn't wait to go back to Winterfell and never come back south again. Cat was right. Starks don't do well in the south. The memories of our walks together seemed so far from reality. I wasn't ready to die and leave my family behind. Lord Stark, Hoster Tully said, snapping me back to the waking world. The man was making an effort not to look weak. He was deadly sick and bedridden for the most part, but wanted to die like a man, on his feet. I know it's not ice, but you will need a new sword, he said, as servant handed me a fine long sword. It's not Valyrian steel but is good enough. The sword was a masterpiece. It could be seen that it was magnificently crafted by a highly skilled blacksmith. It was not as unique as ice, but it would certainly do the trick when in battle. Whoever made this was very good. You didn't have to do this, I smiled, admiring the blade. Use it until you get your blade back, Hoster chuckled. Aye, that I will, I nodded. Ice would come back to our family, one way or the other. Captain Stark, POV. Ned was alive and was staying with my father in Riverrun. The gods were smiling at me. They had heard my prayers and helped my husband. Ned said it was thanks to Ronard that he escaped, that by his hand he was able to survive. But I could see beyond that. Ronard was trying to manipulate Ned into servitude. I wasn't going to let him. That treacherous rat would not take advantage of Ned anymore. Stannis would make sure of it, once Ned pledged his loyalty to him. Let's see how well you do, little bear, I smiled triumphantly. No matter what he was planning, I would always be one step ahead of him. For my family, I would stop him. Okay, this bitch is dumb. Her IQ must be negative. This motherfucker needs some books, and corn. Somebody help this bitch. Increase her brain power. Unbeknownst to her, a raven with an eye patch and a black robe was trying hard to calculate her IQ. Robb Stark POV. Father was safe, and the one responsible for it was Ronard. Had he foreseen this, just how far ahead he had seen this game played out? Like Mother said, he was dangerous, but after this, I doubted he was for us. He had rescued Father knowing full well that Father would most likely support Stannis. He had done something for us. We, as a whole, would never be able to repay. He had united our family, our pack. But Mother was paranoid, saying he was trying to manipulate us, to use us. At this point, I was almost sure her ideas and opinions of him were biased on her one-sided hate she had for him. Because I refuse to believe now that he is our enemy and hates us. He had done what I couldn't. I wonder why Mother hates him so much. I sighed. At first I thought it was for what he did to Theon, but she never liked him. At least not that much to warrant such profound hate. Daenerys, as I expected, was at the coast, waiting with the army to enter the ship. She was a tad bigger, her belly ever growing. With a simple glance, I could tell I had a month or two before she was due. So I had to control that fucking island, before that happened. We are sailing to Lys tomorrow, right? Daenerys inquired, sitting on a lounge silver coach. I had bought, they said it was super comfortable. Yes, I nodded, as I smiled, seeing how dashing she looked. Daenerys smiled for a moment, as she touched her belly, as she gazed into my eyes. We will win, I feel it. Was there ever any doubt? I smirked at her with a hint of overconfidence. No, there wasn't. Daenerys giggled. Viserys is here, you know, I sighed. Not really knowing what to do with him, setting him free was not an option, and death was something I wanted Daenerys to choose for him. Daenerys looked at me for a second as if contemplating what to do with her brother. She now had an even bigger reason to deal with him. There is no love like motherly love. If something can move mountains, is that unyielding love a mother feels for her children. Not all of them feel this, but Daenerys was that type of woman, so all Viserys had to do was say the wrong words, and he would be dead. I'll deal with him later, Daenerys said with a cold tone, with emotionless eyes giving me all the information I needed. She had no feelings for him at all anymore. She didn't feel powerless. She knew she was the dragon, and he was a fake. Do whatever you want, but don't set him free. He steps out of his prison and stays alive, and I'll personally have him skinned. While I trusted she would not, so that I had to let her know my thoughts on the matter. I had stationed various snakes around, and Raven, should he try and flee, they would kill him in a matter of seconds. Daenerys actually smiled at that. I would never, he plotted to have you killed, and wanted to sell me as a common whore. He would spend the rest of his days in prison, or maybe if I feel generous I will kill him. Damn. Since when she becomes so cold-blooded and badass, she is so warm and girly with me, but the moment we talk about anything else she goes full Maleficent. I am both intrigued and aroused by this behavior. My queen is breathing fire, I smiled. Daenerys stood up and grabbed my hands, putting one on her belly, and the other in my heart. I have things I would gladly die for now. You and my babies are the only ones I care. For what I care, the world can burn. I agree, I smiled, giving her a soft peck on the lips. Do you think they know? Daenerys inquired after our kiss, making me smile. They did know someone had deduced my intentions and wanted to fuck with them. But once again, they used the now most unreliable method of communication, ravens, and I knew that their magister was preparing for me. They do, but it changes nothing. If a hanged man knows he is going to be hanged, changes nothing. Next day, after setting the security detail for Daenerys, that consisted in ravens, horses, several snakes hiding in every corner of her room and her personal guard that had over 1,000 men, we sailed to Lys, my 150 ships loaded with men ready to fight and die for me. Our estimated time of arrival was approximately 1 day. The commander of my fleet said we would arrive in a day or so, if we didn't encounter their navy on the way. And we would not. Lion, Krakens. Their navy was a non-existent concern for me. After all, I had ordered my Krakens to start destroying their ships, eliminating their navy before we even arrived at Lys, rendering Lys's naval defenses useless. While seeing my men fight in the sea would be intriguing, I didn't want to risk Daenerys' ship being crushed or something, and I also wanted all my men alive and fully rested for the siege that was coming. Depending on how well defended the city was, it could take from weeks to months to bring them to their knees. But I didn't have the luxury of that. Lights would fall, and it would fall fast. Typical Malor, Magister of Lys POV. I had received a message from Pentos that a self-proclaimed king and conqueror was coming our way. What a stupid little child, my sources had confirmed he was indeed sailing to Lys, and that would arrive, but like many others he would fail. His army would shatter, his power would vanish, and his men would be sold as slaves in my market, and after that I would personally train his wife to be a whore worthy of working in one of my pleasure gardens. Kids have a taste for victory, and suddenly feel invincible. I laughed, as one of my naked whores served me more wine. Our navy is highly accustomed to Sea of Lights. No matter how big his army is, it can't do anything if it doesn't land. One of my advisors agreed. I can't wait to see if it's true that pure Valyrian pussy tastes like fire, I laughed, but a loud sound startled me, followed by the screams of terror. What was going on outside my beach tower? Standing up my chair and walking as fast as I could to the window to see what was happening, I glanced outside my tower, and what I saw made me shiver. This shouldn't be happening. Not now. A kraken! What is a beast so rare doing here? We have no krakens close to Lys. They are never around this area. What could have possibly made this terrible scenario? That kraken would dwindle our ships, but not enough to destroy our navy. My lord loom there. My advisor pointed to another direction. Another kraken. Maybe we could handle... My lord, my advisor cried in panic, pointing to another direction, where the same thing was happening. More krakens, destroying our ships one by one. They were targeting them. Our navy was done for. There was nothing we could do to stop such creatures. All I could do was watch in terror how these creatures destroyed my defenses, as if they were helping the brat coming up. Destiny was not smiling upon me. Ned Stark POV. I was anxiously waiting for my wife's carriage. As I saw it descend from the road, I would be soon reunited with her and the rest of my family, my pack. It almost felt as if the war wasn't going on, and we were at peace. As I pondered over this stupid ideas, deep within my thoughts, the carriage stops, and like an arrow Cat gets out and comes running at my arms. Ned, Cat cried, touching my face as if she didn't believe it. I'm back. I smiled, not resisting the urge anymore to kiss her. It was as if I was dying of thirst and her embrace was my only salvation. Things like this were never my forte, but I was happy with the thought she knew that I loved her and needed her. I never lost hope. The gods would help you, Ket said between sobs. I never stopped praying for you. I smiled, hugging her tightly. We are together at last. Our embrace lasted for about 5 minutes, before we broke it off. By this point, Kat had calmed down and started to explain to me in detail how the war was going. She also went into detail to explain how Runnard planned to use me. I knew she didn't think much of the lad, but this is troubling. Cats, stop, I said. She was getting on my nerves. I loved her, but he had saved me. He deserved at least some respect. I would not let other badmouth someone that has only done good to our family. We owe him a lot, more than he owe us. Stop this nonsense. We are Northerners. We don't dwell in plots like the Southerners. We are for the most part honorable, and the lad for me is honorable. We were the ones that broke our word first, and paid a grave price for it. Kat glared at me, as if I had insulted her. But it had to be said, if it wasn't for Robert and my lack of spine to stop him, we would have Ronard aiding us right now, and Sansa would have a good husband. We had severed that ourselves, and we are the only ones to blame. You'll see, like I told not to come to King's Landing because you would probably end up dead, and it ended up being almost true. You'll see how honorable that kid can be, Kat said with a huff, leaving to speak with her father. Not even an hour together, and we already fought, I sighed. It was finally here. We had arrived at Lys with no complications, just as I expected. Now was where the war started. My men were prepared for what is to come. I had told them there were only 2 rules, no raping and no killing kids. Most of the last year has been spent increasing my military strength to prepare for the challenges ahead. This was my first challenge, my first conquest as the King of the 7 Kingdoms, the King of Essos. At the coast we found nothing but a desolated area that made unloading and setting the camp walk long and silent. The Magister probably opted to play on the defense without his navy. He didn't have many options after all. But so much silent could mean they were trying to ambush me, so with that in mind I sent a few ravens to scout the area, and some to investigate what the Magister was doing right now. If they had a militia of 2,000 sellswords it would a lot, and against my army of 80,000 Dothraki, plus what I had from the 7 Kingdoms, made his options very limited. He can't face me head on, so trying to starve me out here the best option. Quite crafty considering he is nothing but a merchant, but I suppose I must give credit where it's due. It takes our men roughly 8 hours to set the camp, starting with my tent so that my wife could rest. The rest of the day was spent on unloading our supplies from the ships, weapons, food, medical equipment, and more. But it was fairly simple to do it without opposition. I originally expected to face some type of problem once we arrived at the tropical island, but I'm glad I was wrong with that. I can relax at the thought nothing will happen to Denny, not even by mistake. A few hours after setting the camp, my ravens flew back to their posts with updates, and things were mostly like I expected them to be. The Magister had indeed planned a defensive strategy, but not for the entirety of Lys. He had moved the entire company of sellswords he had hired to his castle, and had locked himself there with some other nobles. With all the food he was able to move and raid from the people of Lys, his plan, to stall me for as long as possible, while he contacted Braavos for help. Little did he know his ravens had betrayed him, and no messages would arrive at Braavos ever. Little did he know, he made this conquest massively easier. He had left out at their own risk all the citizens of Lys, from slaves to whore, to fend for themselves against my army. All I had to do was show a bit of generosity. After all, if you feed a stray dog, he's going to stay. Help someone in need, and you will have their undying devotion. Is Politics 101? Seriously, who picks these guys to rule? But not only he had screwed up with his people, practically handing them to me on a silver platter, but he had also made my hunt easier, because thanks to him, all my enemies in this island were now in one single place. A target begging to be burned. How delightful, I smirked, very happy with the information I had been given. But that wasn't all the information my ravens were able to gather for me. Apparently, the Magister originally pretended to slave my people, and make my wife a queen, his personal whore. With that insightful new information at hand, I let my men know the situation, sending, as you would say, political ambassadors around the island, with each one a small army of 5,000 soldiers to back them up, with simple one mission: to tell all the citizens that would not harm that our target was the Magister, and that if they bowed the knee we would ensure that the Magister paid for his crimes against them. As for me, I had an entirely different mission, on a completely different tone. I was not in the mood for peace. Quite frankly, what I wanted right now was to boil the Magister alive for his hubris of thinking that he would ever touch Daenerys. For I would make sure he begged with all his might for the sweet and kind release of death, and only then I would deliver his wretched soul into the fiery pits of hell. So with anger boiling within my soul and the unyielding desire of butchering a Magister, I rode with my Khalasar to his castle, ready to bring him in every down, no mercy. My beliefs were simple. In war, if they stand behind me I would give them protection, as I do with my men. If they stand beside me they would get my respect, but if they stand against me, they would get no mercy. May the gods have mercy upon our enemies, I shouted, getting cheers of approval from my Khalasar, because we won't. Atholajara. War! My Khalasar chanted as we rode to the castle, each and every single one of them ready to taint their blades with blood. Tiki Malor, Magister of Lies, POV. The brat had arrived, his army was as my source in Pentos had said, massively big, with over 80,000 men, Dothrakis, and Westerosi men, but mostly Dothraki. There was no way I could confront him with my 3,000 sellswords. Our navy was our only defense. Without it, thanks to those Kraken, we were in a pretty bad situation. So I contacted Bravos. With their support this could be salvaged, and we would destroy this threat. All I had to do is wait. And the lowly citizens of Lys would serve as sand for my watch. They would die for a bigger and better cause than themselves, to protect me, their magister. Sir, one of my servants entered the room, sweating like a madman. Our scouts, they came back. The army is moving our way, they say, at least over 60,000 soldiers. How did he know where was my castle? There were several dozens in Lytids. This castle is even my primary castle. And more importantly, why wasn't he laying waste to the city, or focusing on controlling the citizens first? It mattered not. His army might be big, but is useless if he can reach within my walls. I have more than enough food to survive a year feeding everyone here, and more if I just let others starve. Have the archers ready, I ordered. Should they try to approach too much? Back to Ronard POV. I had 2 plans for the siege this time around. After all, I was better prepared this time. Basically, I would set huge scaling ladders against the castle's outer walls, for my soldiers to climb and gain access to the castle. However, this would leave my men vulnerable to arrows and other objects thrown at them from the battlements on the castle walls. That's where my ravens come in. They would attack the archers and help my men to reach the walls. But this was just Plan A. Plan B was that another part of my army would ram the doors of the castle. If we could break down the castle gate, we would have free access to the castle. So with the large wooden logs I had brought, I would set my men to pound against the gate and eventually until they destroyed the gate. I would set my men with both plans, and one way or the way we would enter and lay waste on their men. Kill all the archers, I ordered my Raven squad, who immediately after left the formation. Flying to the castle was to carry out their assignment diligently. Yes, Neltharion hissed excitedly like always. He had refused to part ways with me. This would prove beneficial once he was fully grown. We'll be there soon, I patted his head, as I continued to gallop with my horse at full speed through the city of Lys. People cowering in fear, not even daring to move, and one can hardly blame them. Dothrakis were quite fearsome, and even more in massive numbers. Pissax. This time I felt anger within Neltharion as if, like me, he wanted retribution with the Magister. Was he feeling my feelings? Don't worry, he will burn. I smiled with a dark undertone, as I pondered, could Neltharion breath fire already? Can you set him on fire? I knew asking this was maybe a tad complicated, for a newborn, but they do grow up fast. In response, Neltharion blew a bit of fire, doing his maximum effort to keep it up, the fire being at much like 2 lighters. This development seemed to depress Neltharion, who sulked under my jacket. Hey buddy, don't worry, you'll be soon burning like a massive flamethrower. Besides, with a bit of oil, that fire you have will work. Lahars, Neltharion hissed, with hope, with an expression that said, really? Yes, you will set the men on fire, I chuckled. Hey, maybe we can make a dad and his dragon day out of this. Yes. The siege started, with my men executing my plans to the letter, as I shouted, plunging my sword into the ground. Do you know what's waiting beyond these walls? My men in response started to stomp the ground with their feet. Our prey, our enemies. My army at this rose their blades, crying out with one voice, cheering for victory, cheering for the battle that was to come. With a smile forming on my face, I put on my helmet, as I rushed to the walls, being the first to climb the ladders, my Khalasar following close by. Hundreds of arrows were about to whistle through the air, but my ravens entered the scene, bothering the heck out of the archers, killing some in the process by pushing them off the edge. With this opportunity opening up, I make a hand signal. Half of my men split off part of them, trying to climb and the other battering the castle wall, howling like wolves with a thirst for blood. It took me a few seconds to climb the ladders, but once I was on the edge of the wall, I sprinted towards the archers that were still alive, half of my men behind him. The archers in defense tried to let off a volley of arrows at us, hitting some of my men. Dodging the incoming arrows, I leaped over the fortifications they had to protect the archers, sword flashing before my feet ever touched the ground. landing behind them as the archers crumple to the ground as my sword cuts through them. It takes a moment for my men to catch up with and help me lay death into the archers. Within seconds we start to massacre them, erasing their primary defenses, rendering the walls completely useless against my horde of Dothraki climbing. With a smile I turned around looking at the castle, where the Magister was hiding, and with a nod I confirmed my next target. My men catch up to this almost unperceivable gesture and rally to the castle. As I dash for the castle, I hear the door being opened, and the rest of my army rushing in. They had no way of winning now. Not that they ever did. It doesn't take me long before I reach the castle. The main event of this invasion. The archers at the castle unleash a fusillade of arrows, killing a few of my men as we advance. Every few yards another soldier would fall. Several of them are wounded, but if they were not dead, they would keep moving forward, as they saw me, their king charging into battle without fear. As for me, arrows won't stop me. I've been either cutting through them or using my shield to block them. By this point, my shield is now quilled with them. As I advanced, I see two archers showing their faces, with a smile forming on my face. I grabbed a spear that was dropped on the ground, that belonged to one of my fallen comrades, and with great force hurled at the archers, catching them just above the chest, tearing through their throats like a needle and plunging them against the wall like a decoration. The archers, seeing that their efforts were completely in vain and ineffective to slow us, throw down their bows and take up their spears and swords racked behind them. But unfortunately for them, I'm already upon them, cutting them down with ruthless precision. Every time my Valyrian sword flashes through the air, another man falls, and I just kept sweeping through them like flies, my face painted with their tainted blood. After a second, my men catch up and are fighting beside me now, and these sellswords are no match for the Dothraki in hand-to-hand combat. On the other side of the castle, my army is slaughtering the sellswords. As for me, I'm not even breathing hard after the slaughter. This was a piece of cake. I didn't even wake up Neltharion with all this, who was still sleeping on my jacket. With a smile I remove my helmet, as I see my army eradicate the rest of the pitiful army they had to defend, with my Dothraki searching the grounds and rooms, dispatching any dying soldiers or men inside the castle. As I take a seat against the wall, one of my blood riders hurries over to my side. The castle is our, my cow. The Dothraki cheer at this, happy for my victory, their victory. Any updates about the Magister? I inquired. I had told them specifically that I wanted to be the one to kill him. There is one area left that is over 500 men. My blood riders nodded, considering he wasn't able to escape the island by any means. The bastard was there. Good. Take me there, I smiled. As I walk to the last part of this castle to conquer, I gaze up at the sky, slowly turning my eyes to the captain of this sellsword company. They are 150 meters away. Give it or so, still alive, because my men knew better than to kill them without me here. With a smile I point at the captain. Is your boss inside? As I shouted and inquired. Yes, but we are not going to defend him. This is out of our pay, the captain said, trying to weasel out of this one. We could work for you. So you will betray your current patron. For me? I chuckled as I grabbed a spear from one of my men, with my chuckle turning into a dark smile. I heft the spear up, as I calculated the distance and how much force I would need, and throw it at him. The captain barely has time to react to what was happening, but by the moment he realizes what is about to happen is too late, as the spearhead had already found its mark, his chest, piercing him and 5 men to the ground. The captain clutches at the wooden shaft, not comprehending his fate, fear being the last emotion he experienced. The sellswords stare at his fallen captain and looked at me. Why would I want someone that will betray me for the better bidder? I said coldly, as I gave the signal to my men to slaughter them. Men like you don't deserve the honor to serve me. All you deserve is my blade. The Magister was not happy to see, but oh, how happy I was for this opportunity. I was as happy as any man about to kill someone threatening his family could. Hello there, I smiled, taking a seat, seeing the men tremble before me. I surrender, the Magister said, lowering his head. Oh, that's not how it works, my friend, I chuckled, patting him on the back. You lost any human rights the moment your mind sailed and decided to make my wife a whore, albeit impossible, as you saw today. The mere thought, well, I have no words. You must now. The Magister was shaking uncontrollably by this point, peeing himself on fear as I soothed him. No, don't cry now, you will need those tears later. But for now, I want to know, who told you I was coming? I had received the raven, but it wasn't signed. I had a hunch it was Illyrio, but I could be wrong. A magister, the magister answered, not daring to look at me in the eyes. You have any idea how little those that narrow it down? I sighed. Ordello, a friend of Illyrio, the magister said between rasped breaths. Good boy! I patted him, with a soft smile, making him look at me for a second, receiving immediately a punch that knocked down many of his teeth. Did I give you permission to look at me, worm? No, the magister said, bleeding badly through his mouth. Exactly. Now, as for your sins, I hummed, remembering Neltharion wanted to chip in, which gave me an idea. You will die, but your gruesome death needs preparation. My idea was to replicate the Sicilian bull just for him, which was an ancient torture device used in Greece. This bull was a hollow brass statue crafted to resemble a real bull. The victims were placed inside, with no escape. The door was shut tight, sealing them in. Fire them would then be lit around the bull. As the victim succumbed to the searing heat inside, he would thrash about and scream in agony. The movements and sounds would be muted by the bull's mass, and thanks to the design of the bull, the sounds inside would transform and sound outside like those of a real bull. I would commission the bull, and Neltharion would set the bull on fire with his cute fire, and that way my little dragon son would feel helpful. Make sure he doesn't kill himself, I ordered my Dothraki, as they dragged him to a cell. With Lys under control, I couldn't help but wonder what was Daenerys doing right now. The appropriation of the lights was pretty calm, and without any problems. After all, the people of Lys already hated their magister for what he did to them in these dire times, and were too afraid or grateful to complain. But I knew soon most of Essos would love me, because I would change the political play. Starting with Lys. For starters, having slaves would be illegal and punishable by death. If the slaves in question wanted to stay with their masters, for any reason, be it Stockholm Syndrome or because their masters were actually decent persons, they would be allowed to, as long as it was clear they could leave their post at any given time. Raiding would be non-existent, and the Dothraki would be the army of Essos to stop anyone trying to rise in the profession they had left behind, because of me. The Dothraki, in turn, would get paid like the army does, with their salaries, or in this case food and items they require, coming from the exuberant taxes Essos had. Seriously, no wonder every magister is extremely rich. The taxes are 3 times what Westerosi people pay. I, of course, would try to lower the taxes, if possible, but for now it was but a nice thought to have a general idea of how much I could reduce them. I needed to have every city under my control. With Lys alone, my estimate would be really inaccurate, and perhaps implausible. My cowl, my bloodrider said, entering the room I was occupying, the old office of the Magister. I was here reading documents and other papers to understand the socio-political state of this city. A bit better. Yes, I said, acknowledging him. The Khaleesi is safe and sound, inside the castle as you requested. My bloodrider informed proudly. Very good. Let her know I'll be with here in a minute, I smiled, as I went back to read all documents the soon-to-be-roasted men had. As you command, blood of my blood rider left to complete his task diligently, may I add. Blood of my blood, I chuckled, wondering, would I ever get used to this? Daenerys POV. The siege lasted a bit more than a day, outnumbers and strategy proving to be vastly superior to Lys' defenses. Ronard had not only won in a timely manner, but had done it without killing almost any civilians, getting a massive approval from the citizens that originally feared the Dothraki horse would lay waste to their tropical land. Now our tropical island, Ronard has promised he would give me a safe place to have our kids, and recover, and like everything so far, he has delivered every promise. Lys was officially our first conquest together, the place where my kids would be born. My Khaleesi, one of Ronard's blood riders said, entering my chambers, our great Khaleesi will be with you shortly. That sounded like Ronard, always working, worthy of being king. My king, very well, thanks. With that, I was left alone, with my 2 small baby dragons, and my personal squad of ravens. Ned Stark POV. After a few days of travel, I had finally arrived at the garrison. My sun had set close to the borders of the Riverlands. It was relatively close, with only being 5 days of travel to get there from the castle of House Tully. Once I arrived, I couldn't help but find that it was surprising to see that all the houses of the north, My land had raised their banners to help my son set this injustice. I had suffered. Right. For the exception of House Mormont, they had refused to come, not that I blamed them for it. Many did, that was at least what Kat said. "Father!" Rob cried out the moment I stood out the car, hugging tightly, with love, but something about him was different. This war had changed him. "You have done good. I'm proud of you." I smiled genuinely. My son had held a war without succumbing to the pressures of one. "I have only done what you would have done," Rob smiled, as he turned to Kat that had just recently gotten out of the carriage. "Mother," Rob approached her, hugging her in the same lovely embrace he gave me as he asked, "How is grandfather?" "Good," Kat answered dryly, as she started to walk away to what I assumed was our tent. "I need to rest for the moment, my head hurts." Rob sighed as he gave me a look. "Does it has to do with Ronard?" I sighed back. "It does. I don't agree with her ideas about what is going on with Ronard." "I believed her at first," Rob smiled sadly, seeing his mother fade into the background. "But he saved you. He brought you back to the north where you belong, and until he proves otherwise, he is someone I would like to call a friend." I smiled at my son, but the matters were a bit more delicate than that. Ronard wanted the throne, and so did everyone but ours, so that only left me with two options. Either I waged war against Ronard, who was part of us, part of our ken, a true northerner like almost everyone at this garrison, or I helped him. Enemies or allies, there wasn't a middle ground, and I had to make that choice. "I know," I smiled. Sansa Stark POV. Father was safe and sound. At first I thought it was a cruel joke from Joffrey, that little monster would surely enjoy seeing me get hopes just to crush them under his heel. But, after getting a few more ravens, I had no other choice but to believe it. Father was alive and the responsible for it was Ronard. He had saved Father when he didn't have to. It's been a while since I last saw him, but I have so much to thank him. He might not have ended marrying me, but he had kept his promises. He had kept me safe, even from afar. Something Mother didn't see at all. She hated him. For reasons I had yet to find, she was so unfair with him that made me question everything I had seen from her. Was this the same treatment Jon received? Was Jon like Ronard, mistreated and misjudged by her delusional mind? After all, that was the only description I could come up with. Ronard had done nothing but help us, and yet she hates him. Perhaps I should write Jon a letter, apologizing for how I treated him, because apparently I had just opened my eyes to the truth. How naive I was. Form your own opinions, Sansa. Don't let others decide what you think. You are a wolf. Sansa, not a sheep. And only the sheep follow others blindly. You were right all along. Arya Stark POV. I knew it. Ronard would never hurt us. He was our friend. I'm never wrong with the people I like, and he was on my list of people I considered great. He had saved Father just because he could. He had kept our family, our pack of wolves together. Mother was like always in the wrong about him, like she has always been about Jon, and what ladies should do and not do. One day I would pay him all he had done for us. Maybe I could be one of his knights. He did say I had talent. One day I would be his Fang, the Fang of the Westeros. I like that name, I laughed as I continued to practice with my sword. Cersei POV. Lord Stark had escaped my grasp and had joined his family and their army, whose plan was to overthrow their rightful king, Joffrey. If that wolf allied himself with Stannis, and they somehow managed to convince Renly to join them, our heads would be on the ropes by next morning. This, of course, was totally implausible, for Renly and Stannis hated each other and would never bend the knee, and as for Lord Stark, he was in debt with Ronard for saving him. How did Ronard's influence manage to get so far as to have people inside our ranks eluded me? But was a clear statement. I had misjudged the little lord. He certainly played the game better than I had anticipated. Better than most, after all. By saving Lord Stark, he had most likely won an ally, and had in turn weakened us. Father had the little bear in high regard, saying that out of all the enemies we were facing, Ronard would prove to be the most dangerous and unpredictable. But like always, we would come on top. We were lions, and lions won, even Tyrion. That little monster had given his pitiful existence some value after he sealed an alliance with Euron Greyjoy, gaining his fleet to our side. Sister, we need to talk, Tyrion said, entering my room, already ruining my day. What do you want? Make it quick, I inquired. We need to talk about Myrcella and possible alliances, Tyrion said, getting a cup of wine. He wanted to sell my daughter like a whore, as father had done with me. How could he even consider that my children belonged with me, and with me they would all stay? I will not sell Myxella like a cheap whore, I hissed at him, wanting to strangle his little neck and see his life slowly fade away. Father has already agreed on it. I was just being polite, but we need the Martells in our side. We have no allies. Tyrion sighed, shocking me what he had said. Father had agreed to this. After everything our house had done to theirs, Marcella would die there. They would kill her there, I growled. Dorne is known for two things: no boundaries when it comes to sex, and that they don't harm children, Tyrion said. I will take this discussion with father. He can't decide these things without me, I said before storming out of the room, looking for father. It was the evening of my second week in Lyce. Before leaving, I had to set and put everything ready for Daenerys, so she wouldn't have to move a finger. So with that in mind, I stayed setting up the city for her. A little paradise just for her. So after 2 weeks, I was finally due to leave, but as if the gods wanted me to stay, the winds started to howl outside, shaking the sea violently. Apparently, a storm was coming our way, a really big one, which meant I would have to delay my plans for a couple of days or so, at least for the moment being, not that I really cared. Daenerys was probably in her last month of pregnancy at this point, and while I wanted to start waging my war to the other cities so as to keep her out of the enemy's sight, a bigger part of me wanted to see my children. I wanted to hold them. It seems you are staying, Daenerys smiled. Maybe our little chimeras will decide to come out during this time. Maybe they want to say hi to Daddy. Hey, that would be lovely, I chuckled, touching her belly with the utmost care, wondering if my little warriors would come out and say hi soon. Our motherly caw. Instincts feel they are about to hatch. Any time this week. The ravens that usually protected her, or brooded her pregnant, stated. And while I knew what they meant by that she was about to hatch, the image they put on my head was disturbing, to say the least. What do they say? Daenerys giggled. That our little chimeras are about coming any day now, I answered with a smile of my own. As we continued to talk about how the kids would look, and names for them, my mind started to ponder on what was my family on Bear Island doing right now. I knew they were safe, and out of the political mess that was moving inside the Seven Kingdoms. That was the main reason I had left them there, to avoid any of them getting hurt. A safe haven for them, like the one I'm giving Daenerys right now. But even though I knew they were safe, I didn't really know how was my little cousin Lyanna, or my Aunt Maggie. Were they happy? Sad? Something in between. Maggie Mormont POV. Today, like every afternoon, I was alone walking in the forest, with one of the many of armored bears, Renard, left behind, with my mind on the idea that it had been quite a while since my great-nephew left to Essos. Originally, it was intended to be a simple and uncomplicated business trip, and yet, somehow he ended up marrying Daenerys Targaryen, also declaring his intentions to conquer the known world, becoming one of the most prominent players on this war game.
Did I approve what he was doing?
No, in a million years, but he was family. And we bears stand together against anything and anyone, because we don't a reason to stand for our family. We don't need to be logical. But I can't say I fault my little nephew. Everything started when they broke his betrothal, and he probably made his second one with rage and thirst for retribution. Mom, when is cousin Ronard coming back? Lyanna inquired, running towards me, smiling at the bear. Like always, she was wearing her custom-made battle armor. Since Ronard left, she had been practicing non-stop to be a warrior on pair with him, wanting to be of use to us, to his cousin. Maybe he needs a bodyguard. I smiled. No matter how impulsive Renard's decisions were, he had made such a good impression on everyone that served under him or with him, that we would follow him to hell. He will be back soon, he is one of us, and we bears don't die so easily. We bears stand together. Aye, Lyanna smiled, satisfied with the answer, as she left, fading deep into the woods to practice. Stupid boy, I growled with a smile on my face. If you wanted help taking over Essos, why didn't you call us? We bears must stick together. Darcy Mormont, POV. Ronard had left, and had started a war without us, his family, and that was something I planned to fix. I wasn't going to let my cousin go into battle without us, not any longer, not without his armored bears, and his armored ladies, as he used to call us. You were right, Mother has no idea when he is coming back. Lyanna sighed with a pout, that turned to smile really fast. When are we leaving? Lyanna had discovered my plan to go and help Renard, and the only way I managed to buy her silence was to offer her to come with me, and it wasn't like she was going to charge into battle. Renard would probably have her with his new wife. As for me, I wanted to go into this war with him. I wanted to ensure he would come back to us, his family. He was beyond reckless, always acting like he was invincible, unstoppable, unkillable, but no one really is, so he needed us, by his side to help him. We have to leave tonight. I have gathered half of the bear squadron, and some of our men. I smirked at her. Very well. Lyanna smiled excitedly. Finally, we will be able to serve the vodka bringer. One of the many armored bears coming with us growled, as soon the other growled in approval. Sometimes I feel they can understand me, Lyanna added with a puzzled look on her face. Later that night, Lyanna and I left the house, being careful as to not be seen or hear. The men I had gathered were loyal to Ronard, like everyone on the island, but unlike others, these would keep quiets, so that Mother wouldn't stop us. So you finally decide to leave? The voice of my mother stopped me cold on my tracks, as I was running through the forest. She was standing against the tree with a mug of vodka on her left hand, and her weapon on her right, looking at us with cold-blooded eyes for a brief yet long moment that seemed to last an eternity before she suddenly smiled. Be sure to slap the brat for me. He would dodge it, I laughed, as if the palpable tension that was a few minutes ago had never existed. Is the thought what counts? Mother laughed, turning her gaze to Lyanna. I will go. You can't stop me, Lyanna said, standing her ground, as if ready to fight her way out of this, knowing full well Mother would give her the spanking of her life. I won't, Mother laughed, so loud and fluidly that her mug was spilling vodka around as if leaking. I killed my first men when I was your age. I learned how to fight before I even learned how to read. That is our way. Renard made our island safer, but it wasn't always like that. We the women's of Bear Island don't stand by as the men fight. We fight with them and we fight better. So go out there and come back, or I will bring you back to life and kill you again for disobeying me. Aye. Lyanna smiled, nodding. I will make sure she comes back. I smiled. Aye, you better make sure we have the same amount of bears or more when you come back. Mother laughed, as she moved out of the way. I believe your crew is waiting. Rensselaer Baratheon, POV. I had the Tyrells with me and an army of 100,000 men, loyal to me, and yet, I was losing. My brother in the north refused to bend the knee for me. All I had was Loras, who firmly believed I was going to win. I had to unite the Seven Kingdoms so that I could focus on getting rid of the menace that the Lord of the Bear Islands had become. Why so tense? Loras smirked, kissing me. Do you have some tensions to release my king? I do, but only their heads rolling would fix that. I smirked at him, kissing him back, though your body does wonders. I know, and it's all for you, Loras said, and after that, I was engulfed in the fiery pit of pleasure. For Daenerys POV. It has been a couple of weeks since Ronard decided to stay after an awful storm, and I was full of hope he would see our children's first breath of air, and it seemed that time was coming near. I could feel it. This morning was very cold, and for some reason my back ached a lot. Ronard wasn't on the bed, probably working on the office, so I staggered as I walked to find him. Thirst filling my body with an unfathomable strength, drying my very core. Deciding it was best to satiate this basic need first, I went to my night table and drank the cup of water that was placed there. As I stared at the cup, feeling as if I was drinking air, not really satiating the feeling I had. After finishing that unsatisfying cup of water, that did close to absolutely nothing, I decided to continue my quest to find Renard. My mind and body needed him. As I walked through the long castle halls that seemed to have become plains on their own right, I asked everyone if they had seen Ronard. Nobody knew where he was, and by the looks of the ravens following me with worriedly looks through, neither did they. After a few hours looking, with noon coming close, the backache increased, sending chills down my spine, working itself into a slow rhythm. And with this it dawned on me very clear that my little chimeras were not waiting any longer. Where in the seven is that man? I growled, desperate. He had to be here. This pain was as much his as it was mine. My search for Ronard elongated until the afternoon. My backache had evolved and was encircling my entire being by this point. I could do nothing but pant and whimper in pain, the steady rattle of rain dampening her moaning call for succor. The pain that started as nothing but a soft back pain had increased to waves of cramping agony that left me gasping for breath. And on the ravens at this point were panicking. Some even flew away to find Ronard, with the pain abstracting my feeling of time, that became night in the blink of an eye. I could hear the doctors Ronald had hired murmuring to each other. I could see the tops of their stupid heads. I could feel their concerns. And suddenly, like a dam breaking without notice, with a pain that struck fast like a lightning, my water broke. With more surprise than concern, I looked down the floor that was drenched with whatever came out of me. All but one thought occurred to me once again, where in the 7 was my husband. Ronald Mormont, POV. Today was a great day to go out for a hunt, with Neltharion. He wanted to eat, and enjoyed hunting his meals with me, so as to make it more interesting, I sneaked with my dragon son out of the castle, making sure to avoid everyone, including my ravens. Today it was all about me and Neltharion. And what a great day it was. Neltharion had eaten 10 times his weight. I could feel it on my shoulder, and while he wanted to keep hunting, the night was already about us, and everyone could be worried about us. Cole. That sound was indistinguishable. One of my raven had found me. With a smile I turned around, to see around 20 ravens flying at me. Getting closer and closer. Too close. All the ravens cawed in one voice. Not slowing down, not even a bit. Why weren't they slowing down? At this point they would crash with me. They must know that, right?
Any other W.
Like a thunder, all the 20 ravens collided with me. Peaks first making me flinch in a mild amount of pain. It didn't hurt much. It was the equivalent of stepping on a Lego with a normal human body. But still, why the heck are you guys doing that? I asked them, partly angry, but a bigger part of me was confused as to why they would try to kamikaze themselves against me. That stun had done more damage to them than me. Lady Corntaker and her eggs are hatching, all the ravens said in one voice. Hatching. Fuck. It took my brain a full second before I could process and react to this news, and before I knew it, I was running through the forest, leaving the Flash in shame. Hiss! Neltharion hissed, digging his tiny claws on my shoulder to not fall like a meteor on the ground. I grabbed the little dragon, and kept him on a tight grip, while I ran through the forest, with the city looming nearer and nearer, as if I was zooming into a pic. It took me a couple seconds to reach the city. But I didn't stop nor slow down. I continued to run, with my ravens flying behind me, dashing through the city as if it was in flames. It only took me a couple more minutes to reach the castle that I just parkoured to the top, with my fingertips bleeding lightly, for the harsh treatment. Following my ravens until I eventually heard Daenerys, her voice cracking and asking for me, in pain. That alone pushed me into overdrive, giving me a nitro push that increased my already high speed even more. Eventually I reached the room where she was at, and with a kick strong enough to bust the door down, I ran towards my wife who just glared at me. Sorry, I was hunting, I said, holding her hand. Traditions say, the doctor was about to tell me how I shouldn't be here, but the piercing and deadly gaze of my wife in pain was enough to shut him up. Where you? Daenerys asked, panting with pain. I was hunting with Neltharion, I said, explaining myself once again, while pointing to the scared dragon that was clutching with all his might to my chest with his tiny claws, still processing what happened. I hate you, Daenerys growled, gripping my hand with enough strength to bring a normal man down. You don't, I whispered to her ear, letting her trash my poor hand all she wanted. I do right now, Daenerys shouted, pushing once more, her face being red for this immense effort she was putting. This continued for a couple of hours, and before we realized it, we heard the sharp, angry, and surprisingly loud cry that thundered inside the room. Before we could even process what we heard, the doctor smiled, as he said it was a boy. The doctor handed the baby to me, so small as if he knew I was his papa. The baby stopped crying, tiny fingers curling around my pinky. I never felt so powerless, so out of control. I watched my son peer through brand new eyes at what must be such a strange world. With no fear, only wonder. I tried to form a coherent sentence, but my mind was drunk with emotions, tears flowing like a fucking river through my eyes. A few moments after, a similar but equally sharp cry echoed, the last one startling me a bit, thundering with equal strength inside the room. It's a girl, the doctor said, handing the baby girl to Daenerys. With something reminiscent of a smile, the little baby looks at us as with eyes filled with nothing but innocence. I smiled with a cracked chuckle as I see her tiny legs kick in a tiny jagged motion, looking for that resistance they are used to inside the womb, I guess. They are so beautiful, Daenerys said weakly, with a smile that could overthrow the sun. By this point, my mind was partially back together. They are, and nothing will ever harm them. Caw. I am not crying. You are. I need a tissue. I need one caw, W. Caw. T thought do. So, caw, beautiful. We won't let anyone hurt them, caw. After the birth of the twins, I stayed a couple of weeks on the island with Daenerys and them. They were so beautiful, my little Geralt and Alyssa Mormont, but everything most come to an end. And for me it was time to go. I had enemies and rivals that I had to eliminate to ensure the safety of my family. So today would be my parting day. I was sad to leave, but I had the memory of that fateful day. I'll never forget the moment I held my son and daughter for the first time. I was mentally exhausted and terrified, and mostly overwhelmed with everything. But then moment I laid my eyes on them, I was also so very much in love. Love at first sight. It was as if my life was theirs. Now, and it probably was. A part of me still couldn't believe this was actually happening, while another part of me felt overwhelmed with all the happiness, and I can only imagine what Daenerys feels when she looks at them. My ravens were very much in love with my kids. Rhoda personally had requested to be there for them, to defend them should anything come their way. How could I reject such offer? Promise to come back, Daenerys smiled, holding the twins with a soft smile. If not for me, for them. I will, I smiled, kissing her. And the babies in the forehead, my son was probably a baby copy of me. He had her mother's eyes though, but with my complexion, dark hair, and same skin tone. As for my daughter, she took so much from Daenerys, I could faintly see she would have white golden hair like her mother. One thing I knew is that I would spoil the ever-living shit of them. As I continued to talk with Daenerys, I heard one of my men shout that a ship was coming. A ship! It couldn't be any enemies. I had half of my Krakens protecting the island, and they would never leave their posts, so whoever was coming was friendly. Or at the very least using friendly colors, which would prove my defenses needed some improvement. With a look, Daenerys understood that it was best if she and the twins waited inside the castle, while I sorted this unexpected incident. Gathering a few of my men, I ran to the bay, ready for anything. Should they be enemies, they had committed the most stupid and sad attempt of an infiltration ever, if they were allies. Well, I suppose the term allies is a vague one. I only trust Daenerys and my animals, and I suppose my family. It didn't take us long to arrive at the coast. After all, we were very close, mostly because I was supposed to leave today. The ship that had arrived had my house colors and banner, so it either meant that some of my men had decided to go over my orders and come, or someone had stolen one of our ships and was trying to Trojan horse my ass. With an eyebrow raised and mild curiosity taking over, I approached the ship, even more from a new perspective, and now I could clearly see from this new angle that the men running the ship were my men. Hello, my lord, or should I call you my king now? That voice was easy to recognize. Daisy Mormont was here. With a sigh, I turned around, seeing her sitting on a pile of rocks and weapons, with a stern but playful look. Behind her was Lyanna, with a shy expression on her face, but also with a strong resolve to be here, standing with her custom-made armor to fit her young body. Hi, my lord. I mean my king. Maybe she was nervous. They had disobeyed my rules after all. I'm going to ask this once, and only once. I smiled coldly, narrowing my eyes. Why are you two here? Daisy took a step forward without skipping a beat, and answered without fear or hesitation. To help you, we are family, and we bears stand together. So here we stand. There she goes, quoting our family motto. I sighed, turning my gaze to Lyanna. And why is she here? You must know she is too young for war. Mormon women don't shy off from war or a fight, Lyanna said with determination, shaking her apparent shyness away like it never existed. Tell that to a man piercing your throat, I spat. She could be killed or raped or worse. I want to be of help. I have been training. I can do it, Lyanna said with resolve. You two have disobeyed direct orders from your lord and now king, I stated with an emotionless tone. But I'm a kind man, so your punishment will be light, Daisy. You will help me on the fight. But seeing you can follow simple commands, you will be under me, as one of my guards, losing control of the men you brought, and anything. It will be my honor, Daisy kneeled, her blade shining with the daylight. This was supposed to be a light punishment, demoting her from commander to a simple guard, and it aligned with my original plan, for I would keep her out of trouble. As for you, Lena, I had to think of another job that sounded like a punishment, but was actually not my baby's. Bingo. You will guard and protect my kids with your life. Is that clear? Both Lyanna and Daisy froze for a moment, smiles forcibly forming in their faces. It would be a great honor, my king. Lyanna practically threw herself into a kneeling position. Once again, my pseudo-punishments weren't taken that way. But I suppose only our family would take something like this. They had lost for the moment being their power to command others as a punishment, and yet they were happy to serve me, in ways most lords that had a taste for power would find demeaning and a waste of their so-called superior qualities. After a long minute of nothing but dead silence, I laughed as I hugged the living shit out of them. Now that I did my kingly duty, are you two ready to meet your niece and nephew? Niece and nephew? Lyanna inquired with excitement, but was confused by the terminology. After all, they weren't my biological sisters, and my kids weren't their niece and nephew. But I was raised with them, they were my family, and the closest thing I had to siblings. Yes, now we can leave them waiting. They are eager to meet their aunts, I smiled, practically dragging them over to the castle. I had to flex my adorable bundles of joy, like a good father I had to. You're in Greyjoy POV. Soon the Seastone throne would be mine, with my ship the Silence, adorably named for the fact that I cut out the tongues of all who serve it in. Just because a mute man can't spill secrets, my secrets, or annoy me by talking. Ronard might have a big army, overwhelming mine, but he made a grave and terrible mistake. For his greatest weapon would turn to be his greatest weakness. His dragons would turn on him because I will be able to control them with the dragon horn. I found in Valyria. A little blow on this bad guy and his dragons will obey me, and his head will be toasted. I smiled, for this war was won, the moment I entered it. After admiring my trump card for a bit, I decided to go to the War Council. I had been invited to see what were the plans the old lion had. I have heard of you, Tywin the old lion said, with a scrutinizing look, as if measuring me up, and his expression said, he was not impressed, but oh, he should. Cruel and fearless, but also unstable. You might be already playing us. You only play for your own gain, and that is something I can respect, but unlike you, we Lannisters keep our word and pay our debts. We shouldn't trust him. He is a man that insults the gods and stabs everyone he serves. One of Tywin's generals said, looking at me with disdain.
Godless.
Me, Tywin, it seems your generals are going senile. I am the godliest man ever to raise sail. You serve merely 7 gods, but I have served 10,000, from Eve to Tashai, and for that I was made the drowned god. And now, when men see my sails, they pray. But I don't listen. I smiled at the everyone table. Don't worry, we share a common enemy, one that we both want death.
That we do. For now, Tywin nodded.
The old was catching on. He knew or expected my betrayal once we eliminated our common enemy. No wonder he has such a fame. After presenting my wife and kids to my cousins and letting them get to know each other a bit with small talk and stuff, I left for Mare and Tyrosh, the next targets of my list, leaving both Lyanna and Daisy on the island, with the mission to protect my most precious things. I knew that my son Geralt Mormont and my sweet little princess Alyssa Mormont, my 2 greatest treasures, would be safe. I still remember when Daenerys asked why I had named our son Geralt. Sadly, it's a reference she will never understand. While I originally wanted to bring Daisy with me, I eventually caved in to the new voice in my head saying she would do better than any other soldier in my army, protecting the babies. She was a woman's that could give Brienne a run for her money in battle and would die for me, my kids, or my wife. She was initially surprised that I had changed my mind, but still happily obliged to her new task at hand. And finally, after almost 2 months of doing nothing but chilling for the most part, and taking in the fact I was a parent, I was back on my conquest plans. Varen and Tyrash. Mare was a city close to the shore, and Tyrash was an island, so I would have to be careful. While pushing them, unlike during Lysol's siege, I didn't have many Krakens to take their navy down. After all, I had left the majority of them in Lys to ensure invaders found the place, a tad difficult to invade. But even 1 Kraken can do a lot of damage, so I decided to kill 2 cities with 1 stone, with a simple yet effective plan. First, I would send 2 out of the 3 Krakens I had with me right now to Tyrosh. Their mission the same they had in Lys, to destroy their navy and cage them in with no escape. The last Kraken to attack Mare's navy, slowly decimating them. while I would be leading the charge to Mir with my cavalry on the land. With this triple assault, I would cut the amount of time it would take me to subdue both cities, ensuring maximum efficiency. In a military point of view, all I knew about Mir was that they, like Dorne, fought traps and misdirection by using poisons and other stuff to kill their enemies. Everything in Mir was coated in poison, from the daggers to the arrows, which was incredibly effective against my basically naked Dothraki. But even with their Dorne-like tactics, we would win. Mir didn't have a big army, being among the weakest cities in Essos, but the reason it was one of the best cities available was because they were the most technologically advanced city in Essos, and probably the known way world. I have to destroy these cities fast. The last thing I want is my kids forgetting my face. I chuckled as I sulked in sadness, imagining that they won't forget your smell. I know I wouldn't. Neltharion added, approaching me from behind, trying to calm me down, but ended scaring the crap out of me. Since when can you talk? I wasn't scared, but from only hissing to this, it was a big jump. A month or so, one day I didn't know, and the next one, Neltharion shrugged. And you just now decided to talk? I inquired, wondering why it took him a month to do so. Never had anything good to say before, and you never asked. Besides, you understand me without talking, Neltharion answered. From now on, tell me when you learn something new. Do your brothers talk like you? I inquired. Did they evolve like him, or would it take them more time? Sure and no. My brothers can't talk yet. Rhoda says it's because I'm the one that spends more time with you, so they will need more time. Don't really know what that has to do with it, but that's what he said. Neltharion shrugged. Rhoda was probably onto something with that. Usually animals, the closer they get to me, the weirder they get. It all started with him, who eventually changed to Rhoda, which would explain why Neltharion was the first of his brothers to talk. So Rhoda's theory had some merit. I was basically a radioactive man that gave animals personalities and a voice. Huh? Well, take that evolution, shove it, I chuckled. Anyway, don't sulk. My new brother and sister won't forget you, Neltharion added, trying to finalize my concerns. I looked at the dragon, whose size was roughly above a big dog now, and smiled. Well, and even if they do, I'll work it out. That's the spirit, Dad, Neltharion hissed happily. So how long before I can burn people? If this was a human kid, that question would probably be considered a red flag. A week or so, but the word normal left the building I like to call my brain a long time ago, with all the shit going on in my world. Great. I will show them what happens when they mess with Neltharion Mormont. Neltharion hissed, breathing out some fire. Neltharion Mormont. Well, that was unexpected. Neltharion Mormont. I chuckled. Yes, you are my father, and fathers give their last name right. Neltharion tilted his head in confusion. Oh, you mean I forgot my other last name? Sorry, Neltharion Mormont Ravenicus. Yeah, that wasn't what I meant. My cute, and now talking dragon, Ravenicus? Well, they did brood you a lot. Neltharion nodded as he muttered, I know, but sometimes I don't like them. They are always trying to feed me corn, but I don't like it. Caw. How you have any idea how hard we work for that corn, ungrateful chick? A raven appeared out of nowhere. As I watched the raven and Neltharion discuss, one thought that made me smile crossed my mind. My little babies would have a life full of random shit. But it would be a wholesome one. Raven's uncles, dragon's brothers, horse cousins. Things will surely never go dull with this family around. I can burn you. I dare you. Caw. Just try. Caw. Net Fury Ravanicus POV. I was like always doing my job. That was spying these unstable motherfuckers to ensure they didn't do anything to hurt the Cornbringer. I was, after all, part of the Council of Ravens and the director of the spy network in Westeros, so I had to aim for perfection. Today in my normal routine, I had found an interesting item, a horn that apparently could control dragons. That was a big motherfucking no. Euron Greyjoy was the current owner, keyword being current, because I was about to steal that shit, or destroy it. I was not going to take risks. If that horn worked, it could be a nuclear deterrent, one that wasn't allowed to exist outside Renard hands. And I have to thank Euron for letting me know about its existence, because if it wasn't for this crazy-ass motherfucker that for some weird-ass reason talked to himself for 2 hours about how the horn was awesome, and how the horn would ensure his victory, I would have guessed the horn was simply bad indoor decoration item, or a really bad souvenir. For one part, the horn might just be a stupid horn, with no use that is being glorified by delirious thoughts of a madman. But I'd rather be safe than sorry. You can't never be too careful. I can't let such thing to be even be a possibility. We have a mission. That mission is simple. We must retrieve that horn the crazy-ass pirate has. Any questions? I asked my Raven squad. What do we do if retrieval is impossible? One Raven asked, raising his wing. We destroy it. Our priority is ensuring that our Cornbringer has no threat for when he comes back. Is that clear? Caw, I said as I opened my wings, to make an emphasis, and closed the point. Caw, my squad cawed in one voice. Then, let's roll, I shouted, as me and my 40 Raven squad took off. Our destiny, the room of madman. A man entered my room without knocking, staring at me for a second, with a dagger on his hand that was knocked down by one of my Ravens. And unfortunately for him, I'm a soft sleeper, so as soon the dagger was on the floor, I dashed at him with a swift motion, barely moving, managing to seize the attacker to a wall with a knife to his throat, without waking Neltharion. I proceeded to order my Ravens to check the perimeter, as I interrogated the man. Yawning, I whispered to his ear without missing a beat. I was having a good dream, and you fuck it, so who the fuck are you? The man gulped, shaking dumb with fear. Magister Porley sent me. From Mir, I was supposed to kill you before you arrived. I hummed at that. How did someone manage to get within my crew and do such a thing? My Ravens would have noticed it. Then again, I don't have as many Ravens to spy Essos as I would like, so things are bound to slip by. Since when are you here? I sized the man up. He wasn't an assassin. No by a long shot, but was sneaky enough to be a thief. Since Pentos, the man stammered. The plan was one would kill you, while another caused a diversion. Some of my crew members had been personally picked by Ilario, like the chefs and other non-combatant members of my personal, and being honest with myself, I don't keep an eye on him as much as I would like. My Ravens have become limited with the range they have now to cover. Did Ilario knew about this? Yes, he and Magister Porley talked about it in the tombs of Pentos. The man nodded with fear. Oh, fat man, you have sealed your fate, not that it wasn't sealed already. I see. Is there anybody else on this ship? A few that I know of, but I don't know their names or identities. If a pair fails, the other will try later. The man answered, tears rolling down his cheeks. We are a few because he knows you would not kill all of your crew, just to purge us out. Not necessarily all the crew, just the people from Pentos, but nah, I will find you guys one by one, I smiled, cutting his throat, and in the process waking up Neltharion. Who was that? Neltharion inquired, yawning while stretching his legs.
Nobody.
I yawned back, deciding I would deal with this sad attempt to kill me later, after my morning tea. Okay, Neltharion said, going back to sleep. My cow, we captured an assassin. One of my blood riders shouted. I frown. It seems they have captured the diversion, just how low they think of me, sending commoners to kill me. I must at the very least the hardest men to kill. With a sigh and forgetting about my morning tea, I walk out of the room. Your false king is dead, the diversion shouted. Wow, don't count the chicks before the eggs hatch, I chuckled as I walked to the man, that by this point was extremely surprised. So how much were you guys paid? I mean, it must be a lot, considering... Well, none of you would make it out of here alive. I smiled, taking a seat. We do it for the greatness of the Magisters. The man spat, making my blood riders to react by breaking his arms. The only great one is our call, and those who oppose his herd will die. My blood rider said with a dark smile, pray to your god, see if he saves you, or maybe your Magister. Pref. Very well, kill him. I yawned. This guy, unlike the last one I killed, was a fanatic, and that type rarely shares information. What do we do? My blood rider inquired as he cut the assassin's head with his curved blade, probably wondering if there were more of them hiding. Listen up, everybody. Don't trust anyone that is not a Dothraki or an Ironborn. If you see anyone cough in a suspicious way, let me know. I shouted for everyone to hear. Some of the Pentos crew was nervous, others were downright scared, and they should. We are to arrive at Mir in a couple of hours. I would recommend killing all the Pentosi men and women. My blood rider said, flashing a bright, happy smile at them. That would ensure we kill them all, but I like the challenge, or we can do this. I smiled, taking a step forward. Those who come out now will be forgiven. Those who don't will be tortured. Once I find out, I will make sure those who don't suffer for months before dying." A dead silence followed after that, but I waited. Seconds turned into minutes, but eventually 3 men walked forward, kneeling. "Magister Porley has our families, please." Some of us didn't have a choice. One of them begged. The other 2 had similar reasons, and because I was a dad now, let's say I had a soft spot for those willing to kill themselves for their families. "Very well, you 3 are forgiven, but for the moment being you will stay on the cells, just to avoid accidents." With that done, I walked to my room, but a concerning thought blasted my mind. I left Pentosi personal and lice, my wife, my kids. Almost snapping my neck, I turned to one of my ravens. "Go and make sure Daenerys and my kids are safe and sound." Daenerys POV. A few days after Ronard left, assassins tried to take my life, and not only that, but they also tried to kill my babies. Moments like this, I'm glad Ronard is and will be overprotective of us. His animals jumped out from unseen corners to attack the assassins. From bears and horses to snakes and ravens, they all fought, helping Daisy fend them off alongside Lyanna and Jorah. Lyanna got stabbed in the process while pushing an assassin out of the room by tackling him, and if it wasn't for Jorah, it would have been too late to notice their intents. He overheard their plan and rushed to my room, waking me up and alerting Daisy, just in time for her and Lyanna to fight the 16 men off. The snakes, ravens, and our new battle bears fought the men off with ease, destroying the attempt to our lives. In the end, I was completely unharmed, and so were my babies. The only one that got hurt was poor Lyanna, who got stabbed on the arm, but the doctors said she would be fine and would make a full recovery. "Were you all right, my queen?" Jorah asked. "I am, thanks." I nodded, my mind still racing at the thought of my babies getting hurt. But now that the storm had calmed down, all I could think of was if my Renard was okay. He had to. So we could burn Ilario for this. He had to have a hand in this, and he would pay with fire and blood what he tried to do. Ronard will go crazy when he hears of this. Daisy sighed. "Who is next, bitches?" Bear growled. Unfortunately, nobody could understand him. "This is how we do it in the motherland." Another bear added, that was acceptant." A snake hissed, "Ravens for the win." A raven added, "These animals aren't normal," Jorah muttered, seeing as if the animals were having a civilized conversation. Nick Fury Revenicus. POV. 2 days earlier, during the mission Horn Retrieval. Entering the room of the crazy-ass motherfucker was easy, and everything was going according to the plan. That was until the unstable bastard entered the room, staring at my squad carefully lifting the horn. He took a second to process what was happening before he rushed to stop us. "Oh no you don't, motherfucker." I dived him in, trying to gouge his one good eye. "I'ma scratch the heck out of you, bitch." "What is wrong with these birds?" Euron growled, slapping me away, but by the moment he managed to do so, the horn was flying out of the window. "Bye, bitch," I cawed, flying out, giving him the bird. The next day, early morning after we settled our camp close to the coast of Myr, I rode with 5,000 men to Myr to leave a message: surrender and die fast, or surrender and die slow. Our camp was set fairly close to the city, 2 hours on ours, to optimize my troops' movements. I knew Daenerys and my kids were safe. A raven had informed me of it. I could feel it too deep within my heart, but still, just knowing they had attempted to take them away from me. Forever. It fired up an unyielding monster of rage that was running wild deep within me. I wanted more than ever to kill those who had hands in this suicidal arrangement. I wanted to see their lives slip through their eyes. "My call," one of my blood riders said, bringing me back to reality. And it seems Mybr was waiting for me. The city was closed and there were people on the walls, the Magister, and some other nobles. By the looks of it, they wanted to end this with a duel. The audience of Highborns, and how they weren't trying to shoot me down with arrow, shouted it was that way. They would send their champion, and he would fight for Myr, and he would die for Myr too. A boy riding with savages. You are no true king. You are nothing. And today we will show you that. I could hear the Magister cackle in amusement. He was like every Magister, totally despicable, disgusting, repulsive, and right now there wasn't anything I wanted more than to cut his head off. Our champion will show you that. "Let me my Kel, it would be my honor." My blood rider said, practically begging to be my champion, but I silenced him with a plain glare. If someone was going to fuck their morale, it was me. Seconds after the doors of Myr opened, and a man with a horse galloped out of the city. their champion, confirming my suspicions. They wanted to make an example of my forces by defeating my champion with theirs. That way, if they won, which they would not, it would boost the morale of everyone serving them. Too bad I was about to drop that morale, so low they would need therapists. I started walking towards the champion. From afar, I could clearly see he was 3 feet or more above my height, a giant on his own right. With a smile, the giant stops around 50 meters from me and turns to his people, shaking his massive two-handed axe over his head while shouting how he would kill me and my army would follow. Everyone in Mir cheered for him, including their army, that is supporting the giant by slamming their spears against their shields. Being supremely bored with this sad facade, I started to sprint towards him, initiating the fucking duel once and for one, with shield and sword in hands. The giant turned around at this with a flashing smile, throwing a spear at me. Without breaking my stride, I raised my shield, blocking the attack. I don't stop nor slow down, I just keep going towards him, smiling. The giant, in reaction to this, snarls at me and hoists a second spear and hurls it at me with even greater strength. But once again I simply raise my shield, blocking the attack and breaking the spear in two. With a smile I stop for a second, as I cast aside my sword, immediately speeding up towards him. By this point the big man knows, even with his limited brain power, that spears won't kill me, so with a growl he unsheathed the massive two-handed sword to wield on his left hand, while he used the two-handed axe on his right. With a beastly growl the giant lets loose a battle cry, and charges at me. It took me a few seconds to be in front of the soon-to-be-dead men, who in reaction to my speed tried to raise his weapons, trying to crush me with a double strike. But I lunged forward with terrifying speed, closing the gap to his personal space, and before he even had the chance to use his weapons and bring them down on me, I proceeded to thrust and bash my shield straight through his skull repeatedly, over and over and over again, until there wasn't anything but a puddle of blood where his head used to be. There will be no mercy. There will be no peace. Those who oppose me today will suffer, I shouted for everyone to hear, as I spat on the former champion. After killing the champion, I left the borders of Myre, going back to my camp to coordinate with my army. I still had to plan how we would approach the siege. For one part, my Kraken was already laying waste to their navy, and in a matter of hours, all their ships would be down the sea. Unfortunately for me, the siege would take more than that. I had many options. Between them was burning the city, poisoning the water supply, and more. But I wanted to have something to rule after the dust settled, and I would. So after a few hours discussing and planning with my generals, I decided to infiltrate and open the gates myself, breaking their defense from the inside out. If that did work out, all my generals had to do was have the army in the gates of Myre by tomorrow morning. With the plan at hand, I left my generals in charge, while I rode with a horse to the castle, with nothing but 2 ravens and my blade on my side. Once inside I would have to find someone stupid enough to betray their people, just enough for me to get in with my army, and then kill them. It was dark, very dark, the moonlight barely shining tonight, and thanks to that, nothing could be seen unless you were a nocturnal animal. The perfect time to sneak inside the castle. With patience and focus, I climbed the castle walls, barehanded, making sure not to make any sound whatsoever. Step by step, taking my time, I knew once I was on the wall, I would find archers waiting for me. So I had to be careful. If I could avoid killing anyone during this infiltration, it would be most beneficial, because I would avoid people going after me. But that's just wishful thinking, and that didn't exist on War. After roughly 15 minutes of climbing, I was nearly at the top. 3 archers were patrolling the area. Sadly for them, they would have to die. Pushing my entire body up above the wall with my hands, I dived the archers, killing them so fast that they didn't even have time to process what was going on. They just fell like lifeless dolls to the ground. That was mercy, not that they deserve it, but killing them with a single swing of my blade was as merciful as I could be, and I didn't want to be merciful. Moving through the shadows, while using my ravens to locate every enemy within the area, I avoided every single soldier. If I had to take a guess, I would say the Magister would know someone infiltrated by morning, because the new archers from the morning shift would find the ones I killed there, but by that moment, it would be already too late. Magister poorly, the army is moving towards us, but considering their speed, they don't intend to attack. A voice caught my attention. No, that I recognized, but the information was of importance to me. The young Westerosi must be planning to scare us with his massive numbers. The Magister laughed, Too bad our attempt to kill him and his family failed. It would have made our life easier. Now all I have to do is wait for Illyrio, and together we will crush this thorn in our sides. What a lucky surprise I found the idiot who rules this city, and he admitted trying to kill me and my family. And while right now there wasn't anything I wanted more than to torture him to the point where his sanity was forever lost, I had a mission that in the long run would ensure my victory. If I killed him, his men would eventually overwhelm me, and I would die, and I am not ready to try and see if the God of Light will idu. Tensei my ass back to the living. I had enough of the gods for an entire lifetime, so I rather avoid situations where I would need him or them. So taking a deep breath, I moved forward with my plan, leaving the Magister behind. For now, just for now, he would live. After hours exploring and sneaking the city at night, I found the gates I was looking for, but the system used to open them proved to be complicated for myself. It was one of those gates you needed 2 men to open them, one in each corner to pull the levers, which was humanly impossible for me. I guess so with this in mind, I modified my plan a bit. Knowing I would need help to open the gates, I set my sights to the only source of willing men inside this place that would even consider helping me. Mara's prison. But I wasn't going to jailbreak any criminal. I had to see their charges. Fortunately for me, the prison I infiltrated was mostly inhabited by petty criminals. So I took the first man I saw and freed him for this shithole. His crime, stealing food for his family. His sentence, dying on the plaza for everyone to see. What did I offer him? A job with a good and stable income, and his freedom, if he helped me. It wasn't surprising when he cried while accepting my offer, but things went downhill from there. See, I would have stopped my prison break with him, but I can't turn away so many willing men that are absolutely not deserving of death, and that also happen to be begging to help me take the Magister down. Some just for a piece of bread, others for their freedom, some for a job. So, considering my long-term plans, I accepted. Besides, it's not like I was freeing rapers, killers, or something worse. No, for some reason, this prison had hundreds of so-called criminals that had only committed petty crimes, and even though their crimes were at much deserving of a few months or years of jail, they were still sentenced to death. A tad harsh and sad for them, but just what I needed, people hating the current system and willing to support anyone for a chance of retribution. So by the end of the night, I had freed around 200 men while killing along the way around 50 guards. But a bunch of men without weapons were nothing but sacks of flesh begging to be cut. So we raided the prison, killing every guard and stealing every weapon. In the end, I had 200 men, poorly equipped, but ready to die for a new era. The first thing I did once I was outside the prison was to order the men I had just liberated to move in groups around the city, while hiding their presence, the best they could. Their mission was simple. They would wait for me to rush at the gates to come out and cause a diversion, buying me as much time as possible. With that done, I sneaked back to the gates with 4 men following me through the shadows. Thank God the gates were conveniently somewhat close to the prison. Once we were there, all we could do was wait. My ravens would tell me when it was time to open the doors. Minutes turned into hours, but our time lurking in the shadows was coming to an end. For a raven was flying close by, shouting, "Open the gates." My raven cawed loudly, flying above the gate. Giving the signal, I jumped out of the shadows, killing 2 of the guards nearby the gate, with a single swing as I rushed to the gate with my current helpers. As we approached the gate, more and more men started to pour into us, pushing us back, or at least they tried to. I kept swinging my blade, leaving a trail of bodies behind me. Soon enough, it was diversion time. The men I had freed from their prisons charged into battle, reclaiming their freedom and buying me more than enough time to open the gates. My army was outside charging at full speed towards the open gates, a few minutes away of us. All I had to do was hold my ground for a minute, and I would win this. "Come on! Fuckers!" I shouted as I started to slaughter any men getting close to the doors. My newly acquired friends were falling one by one, but they had completed their mission superbly, and I would honor their deaths with my blade. I smiled, pointing my sword towards Meyer's army. "Let's go, fuckers." I could hear my Khalasar galloping towards the gates, raising their swords while crying out with one voice. Hundreds of arrows whistle through the air. As I cut each and every single one of them, my hand lighted for a second, showing the runes of the left hand of God. I was pushing my body to react to hundreds of attacks. I could hear the cries of pain of my men as arrows hit them. I could also hear them tumble into the ground dead, one by one, but they needed more than that to stop my army. So I continued holding my ground. By this moment, all the men I had freed had either died or were down on the floor bleeding out. As for me, I was slashing at the men that approached the gates, the limited space of the gates helping me to fend them off. I wasn't unscathed. I had cuts all over my body. Nothing serious. The 9% of them could be considered paper cuts, at much. My mind and body were moving and acting in total sync, but I was fighting more than even I could chew, and little by little, I was being pushed back. But unfortunately for Mir, it was already too late, as my Khalasar was already riding past me, slaughtering the men at the gates like dogs. "Kill all those who oppose you. Don't show mercy," I shouted. "For the great Khal," my blood rider chanted, jumping off his horse near me. "My Khal, allow us to take this city in your name. You had done enough." I looked at him for a moment, considering his offer, but decided to wave it off. I wanted to kill the Magister myself, and that I would do. "No, not until the Magister is dead," I practically growled. "Then I'll fight by your side." My blood rider smiled, rushing into battle. With a smile I rushed into the castle, cutting everyone that got in my way down with ruthless precision. Every time I swung my into the air, another mirror soldier would fall. By this point, my face was covered in their blood. My Dothraki besides me now, thoroughly crushing the army inside the castle walls, with no sign of slowing down at all. Magister poorly POV. Someone had infiltrated and opened the gates. We were doomed. We would die. All of us. We didn't have enough men to fend off 80,000 men. That man would kill me. He knew about my attempt to kill his family. He was sure to make my last moments as painful as possible. I wasn't going to give him that chance, not in a lifetime. If I were to die, it would be on my own terms. I would go under my own rules. Poison, I would kill myself and steal him the pleasure of torturing me. In the end, I would leave this world with one last victory. With that in mind, I rushed to my cabinet trying to get on my poisons to kill myself. The one that doesn't hurt and takes your life away silently. But as soon as I got the cabinet, a bunch of ravens started to attack me. Caw. No, you don't, bitch. Caw www yourself. Back to Ronard POV. I continued to rush through the enemy lines, slaughtering everyone in my way. My ravens were steadily guiding me to my target. It seemed he was trying to kill himself. And they were stalling him. If the coward thought he was going to escape and go out on his own terms, he was sorely mistaken. Because the moment he attacked my family, the gods had forsaken him, and I was his new god now, and I wasn't a kind god. Suffering, long and lasting suffering awaited him, and his cries of pain will bring me an immense amount of satisfaction. Anger controlling you, as Rhoda said, flying beside me. And what am I supposed to do? Be happy, I growled, as I continued to cut heads off. No, but let go, you must, or anger the captain will be. Eurus! Rhoda was right. If I started to allow my inner demons to control me, I would end up becoming a monster. But how could I? I knew he was right, yet all I could feel was rage when I thought of that man. I hated the desire of hearing him scream in suffering, yet it was all I could think of. How could I just forget what he tried to do? How could I just let go? Let others kill him. You must, for your anger to quench. Yours. I stopped for a second to think about it. Perhaps this way I would stop this feeling I had, and the end result was the same thing, the guy being dead. No, I wanted him dead, and I would do it myself. He who puts the sentence must swing the blade down. But as Rhoda said, I would control my inner demons. I would not let rage guide me. He would die, but I would not dirty my hands, as I did with the Magister of Lice. I would have justice without becoming a monster. I will kill him, I finally answered, in front of the door where the Magister was hiding. With one kick, I busted the door open. Behind the door was the pitiful man that tried to take away everything from me. My ravens were attacking him non-stop. He was bleeding and crying on the floor, utterly pathetic. Please, I don't want to die, he begged, crawling to me with tears and snot. Hate, anger, disgust were just a few of the feelings I had for him right now. I wanted to kill him. I wanted to make him suffer. But Rhoda was right. Once you go down that path, there is no turning back. He had to die. But I didn't have to become a monster. I wasn't like him. Disgusting, I breathed out, cutting his head with a single swift. A part of me was crying this was not enough. But I knew it had to be done. I can't crave into every emotion I feel, or I'll end up becoming a tyrant, no matter how much he deserved to scream and suffer. I had unfortunately to be the better man. Was I satisfied? No. I wasn't. This was but a moment, a fleeting moment that lasted too little to satiate my thirst for blood. But I was happy somehow. I had avoided going deeper into the void. Keeping my sanity is getting harder and harder, I chuckled, as I cleaned my blade from his disgusting blood. And just like that, Mir was mine. While there was still some opposition, by the end of the night it would be completely under my control. Taking a deep breath, I decided to let my men take the rest of the city. They would do without me for some hours. I needed some time to gather my thoughts and rest before going to Tyrush. My call? My blood rider approached me. Take the city, and kill those who oppose you. I need a break, I ordered him. As you wish, blood of my blood, my blood rider said eagerly, probably happy I had trusted him to take the rest of the city. This was like saying I trust you more than I trust my horse kind of thing for them. Meditate, we must, Rhoda offered. You know what? Sure. Let's. I nodded with a smile as I walked out of the castle. Melisandre POV. The fire was showing me things, showing me that I was blind, but the Lord of Light is kind and caring, and he had illuminated my blinded mind to his glory. He had shown me I was wrong, that Stannis wasn't the prince that was promised. No, the real prince that was promised was on the other side of the sea. I didn't know who he was or how he looked, but he wasn't on Westeros. The fire had shown me he was having a hard time, fighting the shadows deep within him. He needed my guidance, and I would give it to him, my guidance, my mind, my body. But first I had to weaken his enemies. I had made his mission harder when I wrongfully thought Stannis was the chosen one. I had to mend that mistake, or I wouldn't be able to serve under his graceful light. I had to fix my wrongdoings. I shall be yours soon, my prince, I promised to the fire, as I started to plan Stannis' downfall. I woke up early the next morning, just to confirm what I knew. My army had taken over Mir, another victory I had lost during this siege, around 1,000 men. Not really a great loss, but still affected me in the long run. Mir took apparently quite a while to subdue, for some of its people, like the nobles, didn't want to bend their knee, or surrender, resulting on the street of Mir being fully covered with lifeless bodies that were starting to rot out. As for me, I did feel a bit better after delegating some of my weight to others. Even if it was just for a short amount of time, it took a great deal of stress off my shoulders. Maybe it was time to stop thinking I had to do everything myself. Because I didn't have to. I was a king, and kings delegate tasks, reason why they have a fucking small council. Taking a deep breath, I went out of the castle I had picked to slept in, trying hard not to breathe the air of the city. Thousands died and the streets smelled like shit. Literal shit. My Cal, this city is yours to tool. Part of your herd. My blood rider said with a smile, no one will oppose you here. Blood of my blood. I smiled at him, not really sure how to react. Thanks, and then it occurred to me, it was time to delegate, have the streets clean, and the bodies burn outside the city. No slaves. As you wish, blood of my blood, the man nodded, taking his mission and his men to complete it. One thing off my things to do, now to see how things were going on Tyrush. I did send 2 Krakens to stir the soup there a few days ago. I also had figure how to deal with Ilario. He deliberately tried to kill me, which by itself I couldn't care less. But the fact he had aimed for my wife and kids was unforgivable, and while I wanted to boil him alive, I would be the better and bigger man and will not let my anger control me. He would still die, but in a less horrific manner, hanged perhaps, or decapitated, maybe Kraken food. He seems like a good snack for some massive water creatures. All of those are fast ways to die, and can't be considered torture per se. Rhoda, I shouted, a few seconds after the raven landed on my shoulder. Rhoda tilted his head in confusion, wondering what I wanted. Go to Tyros and get me an update in their situation, I ordered my feathery friend, who took off to Tyros as soon as he was told. All right, 2 things out of my to-do list. I'm crushing it this morning. Daenerys POV. Since that dark day where the assassins tried to take everything from us, and Jorah helped us, just in time, I started to think and wonder that perhaps Jorah was worthy of a second chance. If a man like him, the scum of the world like Ronard described him, was willing to throw his life away for us, and perhaps, just perhaps, my brother was worthy of redemption as well. Maybe the incarceration changed him. We were the last of the Targaryen line. If he was willing, he could be the Lord of House Targaryen. Taking a deep breath, I walked towards the prison cell my brother was being held at. I haven't seen him since he tried to plot against Renard. That time was the last time I last saw him. But time changes people. Time changed me. I was hopeful that he was a different person, that he was willing to let go of his past and be free. Where are you going, my queen, if I might? Daisy inquired. I am going to see my brother, I informed her. She was supposed to be part of the royal guard, so where I was or when was part of her job. Then allow me to come with you, Daisy requested. But I could see on her face she would come either way. Just like Renard, these bears are stubborn. I don't see why not. I smiled. Then let me come too, Jorah said, kneeling. I offer once again my blade to serve my family till the end of my days. I will discuss this with Renard. But for now you will serve with Daisy, I smiled, while I understood why Renard hated him. I couldn't bring myself to truly hate him after he risked his life to save my most precious treasures. The dungeon was quite the depressing place. Nothing but darkness and decay were seen in it. Renard himself had said our enemies deserve our worst, as our allies deserve our best. This was a place worthy of our enemies, a place worthy of those that try to stand in our way. My brother's cell was in the deepest corner of this dark hole, where the rats and other vermins roamed free. As I walked, I remembered how everything was when I met Renard. I was a scared little girl, with nothing but the hope of going home. Viserys was cruel and demeaning, treating me like a tool for his game, and like a dream. Renard saved me from my nightmare. Here we are, my queen, Daisy said, pointing to my brother. Viserys, I breathed out, looking at him. He was skinnier than I remembered, wearing common rags that were full of dirt. His once silvered-colored hair was brown from all the dirt and other substances in his cell. Daenerys, Viserys breathed out, looking at me, straight in the eyes with anger. You finally come to free your king's sister. The only king I know of is Renard, and I'm his queen. I practically hissed at him.
It seems you have forgotten about the dragon.
Viserys chuckled. So what are you doing here? I wanted to offer you a chance. Forget the crown. Step aside and join us, I offered. Why would I step aside from what's rightfully mine? Especially when I have you right where I want you. Viserys smiled, looking at Jorah with a triumphant expression. Has imprisonment destroyed your mind, brother? I inquired, raising an eyebrow with doubt. He was in a dungeon. What game was he playing? You'll see soon. Viserys smiled like he always did when he was about to hit me, and punish me for talking back to him. You really prefer to rot in here, instead of being free and getting to know your niece and nephew. I knew Viserys was prideful, but this was just stupid. He even brought the dragons back to the world. I have two with me right now. Don't you see? He makes the impossible possible. You mean the dragons that belong to me? Viserys laughed like a madman, and those things you birthed are no dragons. They don't deserve to have my blood running through their veins. Rest assured I will kill them once I get out of here. How foolish I was. To think I thought there was something I could save from Viserys. Not all people are worthy of redemption. Some are deserving of the worst this world can give. You dare to threaten my babies? I stared at him, with cold, emotionless eyes. You have grown stupid in this place. Have I? Viserys laughed. Dear sister, once again you woke up the dragon. With a sadistic smile, he turned his gaze to Jorah and said, Jorah, kill them. I turned to Jorah to see he wasn't moving at all. He looked at me as if waiting for my command. Daisy, on the other hand, had unsheathed her blade, and was ready to kill her uncle if he tried anything out of line. Jorah, kill them. Viserys started to panic, sheer terror washing down on him. He was your plan, I sighed. Pathetic, now you said many times, you are a dragon. Now how about we rest that? Sister, please remember who kept you safe, who gave you everything, Viserys begged, tears rolling down his face. I do. I married that man. I glared at him. But don't worry, brother. Fire cannot kill a dragon. You should be fine, unless you are no true dragon. With that, I walked out of the dungeon, feeling fire burning deep within me. After all, I had an execution to plan after I interrogated Jorah about what just happened. Delegating things would and was making my life considerably easier. That way I could focus on one or two tasks at hand, by expanding my goals and optimizing my conquest. With this mindset, I had ordered the general of my navy to attack Tyrosh and claim the city on my name. while I went with a chunk of my Khalasar to Astapor. Why did I want to go to Astapor? Well, Astapor, or the Slaver City, also known as the Red City, was renowned for their harsh slavery methods and their incredibly lucrative unsullied trading business, aka eunuch slave soldiers. Soldiers that I wanted to buy. Their price was high, very high, but what I had gained from Mir and Lys and what I had from Westeros, I just should have more than enough to buy all the unsullied available. Besides, it wasn't like I would lose that money at all. After all, I would recover all my investment and more when I raided the masters of Astapor and claimed their city for my empire. In the books and TV show, Daenerys got around 14,000 unsullied warriors. My mission was to do the same. They would prove to be quite useful, and unlike the Dothraki, they were quite good at fighting armored warriors. Astapor was unfortunately really, and I mean really, far away from here. It would take me roughly more than a month of travel to get there, if I didn't find any problems on my path. Not that I would find any problems after all. I had 15,000 Dothraki men riding with me, a big Khalasar of loyal Dothraki riders, and to be honest, I didn't think anyone would stupid enough to attack me. Perhaps another Khalasar, but considering the remaining Dothraki tribes are small, they would most likely avoid me. The question was, would the masters of Astapor be stupid enough to sell me the Unsullied? By now people must know I'm conquering, and that's like selling weapons to your enemies, unless they think themselves to be above my reach, just like they thought with Daenerys on the show. I suppose I'll find out there, I sighed. One of the main reasons I had brought with me such a big army was just in case the masters tried anything funny, though I was crossing my fingers they didn't. It would be a shame to kill the Unsullied because their current masters were stupid. Daenerys POV. I was a fool to think my brother had any redeemable qualities. An utter fool. But I could see now, I was blinded by the beautiful truth. Viserys was nothing but a nuisance, a threat to my husband, my babies, and myself, and threats must be purged. And he will be purged in a poetic way. His entire life he had called himself the dragon. Well, I was about to see how much of a dragon he was. I would burn him alive, showing the world he was no true dragon, and that I would kill anyone that posed a threat to my family. My queen, Jorah kneeled. My interrogation with him revealed some interesting things about him. Apparently he had sworn to serve my brother, but had forsaken that vow when he saw his son. Did I trust him? No. If he was hiding that, the chances of him hiding more stuff from us were high. I trusted no man but Ronard. Is the fire ready? I inquired. Yes, Jorah nodded. Are you sure you want to do this? You are not here to question my orders, just to follow them. I glared at him. As you wish, my queen. I will get your brother out, Jorah nodded, leaving the room, going to the dungeons to get Viserys to his execution. He is no brother of mine, I said coldly. Viserys had lost that privilege the moment he aimed his fangs at my family for a second time. Jon Snow POV. Father was alive, and by the looks of it he was already safe. Rumors go that it was Ronard the one who saved him. I was glad beyond comprehension, after months of not being able to sleep well, thinking I would wake up with the news that father was killed. I was finally able to put my mind at ease and rest. I own Ronard a big one, not that I would be able to repay him. I was a bastard on the wall, but I would be here for him, should he ever need something. A smell. Coming, I shouted back, wondering who was calling me so late at night. Ned Stark POV. Stannis Baratheon, or Ronard Mormont, the difficult choice torturing my mind. The North in part was tired of the Southern oppression, and none of the lords in the North actually wanted to bend the knee for Stannis. Some even wanted to put a crown in my head instead. But I was ill prepared to rule. I was but an honest man. A lord, I was, and I would never be fit to be a king. But even if I didn't want to rule, I had to choose a side, Ronard or Stannis. Ronard was loved and extremely popular in the North, after he freed me, so I was certain my vassals would not oppose the idea of Ronard sitting on the Iron Throne. He was a northerner that married a dragon. But even though I was bound by honor to Stannis, the legitimate heir of Robert, the decision was hard because a man without honor is no man. I have lived by those principles my entire life. I almost died by them. Robert used to say that honor is not always the answer to everything. And perhaps he was right. Stannis was a good soldier and great commander, but would perhaps make an ever worse king than Robert himself. I knew what I had to do. I once raised my banners for my family almost 2 decades ago. Forsaking my honor and vows as I fought the Targaryen for their crimes, it was time to do it again. I had an honor debt to both Stannis and Ronard in different ways, and while the choice was hard, I had chosen my side. Ronard. I would help the young bear to win this war. Perhaps all this wretched kingdom needed was a northerner to straighten things up. Call the banners, Rob. We are going home, I told my son, who while confused nodded and left my tent to carry out with his mission. But to ensure our families were always allies, I needed to bound us together by blood. Rob was 17, and Daisy Mormont was 22. If they married, our families would be forever bound by blood. I just hope he accepts. I sighed.
You'd immortal POV.
War had erupted on the Seven Kingdoms, and so far only my house and house were out of the game. Not for long, like a coiled cobra under the grass, I would wait for the right moment to strike and get revenge for what the Lannisters had done to our family. Oberyn was eager to strike, always so impatient. What he didn't see is that we needed to wait for our allies, Renard and Daenerys, to come. With their support we would advance towards the Lannisters. Until then, we had to play safe, for the sun always comes back. Euron Greyjoy POV. I had lost my one secret weapon, to a bunch of birds. How was this even possible? One of them had a leather jacket and an eye patch. Something was out of place, but I had no time to figure out what. Without that horn there was little to no chance for me to win this fucking war. So with that in mind, I now had to go and dig a new fucking one in Old Valyria. We are going to Essos, I muttered, ordering my mute men to start preparing the ships. Titan Stark, POV. Ned has gone crazy. He wanted to bend the knee for Renard. He wanted help that little no one to get the crown, and not only that, but marry our son to his family. I won't allow this, Ned. I cried out angry. Good, because I don't need your approval, Cat, Ned growled back. I'm tired of your paranoia, Renard is not who you think it is. Nor was Jon. You see others that you think are below you as trash, and I'm done, Cat. I'm doing what's best for the North, and it's final. Ned has never talked to me like that, so harshly, so cold, even from afar. He was destroying everything, even from afar. Ronard was destroying our family. Estapor was right ahead. A few miles away from me after a month of travel, I had finally gotten close to the slaver city. I was both excited and a bit nervous, because the chances of them reacting poorly to my presence were high, very high. I knew that if a conqueror came to my house trying to buy shit, I would probably try to kill him. But that was me, and as I proved so far, everyone seems to be a prideful idiot in this world, thinking that they cannot be killed, or some shit along those lines. But for once I hoped they were dumb, and considered me an idiot, so that I could buy their army and crush them. The city entrance was pretty underwhelming. Pretty shit, to be honest. It looked like they didn't care for appearances at all. That's the entrance to Astapor, my Khal, one of my Kowo pointed out. Even from afar I could see the old crumbling statue portraying the Astapore harpy atop the harbor gate, noticing nobody has given the poor statue some kind of maintenance in decades. I see, I nodded. The city walls were old and decaying. Everything was as if breaking down anytime soon. How the fuck people that should make a lot of money selling slaves have their city in such a bad state? Taking a deep breath, I continued to descend the hill to Astapor, hoping the city was more welcoming inside, otherwise I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep that shit on my name. Once I conquered Dessos, perhaps I would delegate someone to fix everything, and come back once this looked more decent. Let's go, I sighed. Ned Stark POV. Going back to the north was a bit harder than I would have liked. I had to break Rob's betrothal with House Frey, because they had tricked my son. We already had an agreement of free pass before, and the old Frey broke it. But he wasn't one to go back on what he wanted, so I had to pay a toll, a big one, to pass. And even though I managed to pass with all my family and army back to the north, I had a distinctive feeling the old Frey was planning something bad for us. But whatever that was, it would prove meaningless in the north. Cata wasn't on speaking terms with me, refusing to acknowledge my existence after I decided to side with Renard on this war. I hoped that eventually she would let it go, like she did with Jon. Now it was time to go home, and plan the betrothal with House Mormont to ensure we are tied by blood. Rob wasn't entirely sure about the idea, but accepted nonetheless. Now it was a matter of time whether Renard would accept our betrothal or reject it. "Do you think Daisy is a beautiful woman, Father?" Robin inquired. "I saw her once. I say she's all right," I nodded, with a chuckle. "Boys will be boys." Neltharion Mormont Ravenica's POV. Father had tried to leave me in Mare, Little did he know, I sneaked inside of one of his carriages. I won't let him get out of my sight. I have to protect him and burn his enemies. It is my duty as his oldest son. Car, he will notice, one of my raven uncles chuckled. He won't. I'm super sneaky, I hissed at him. Sure, Caw, the raven laughed. No matter what my uncle said, I knew father would not notice. I was the best at hiding. Father had told me so. Ronald Mormont POV. Neltharion, technically my oldest son, thought he could hide from me, but being fair, I noticed he was with us halfway here, when I saw his tail peeking out of one of the carriages. I didn't have the heart to tell him he sucked at hide and seek. As a father, it is my duty to encourage him. Caw, you see him, don't you? A raven inquired between chuckles. I do, I chuckled. No, he doesn't, Neltharion hissed angrily, followed by 5 full seconds of silence. Damn it. So what are you doing here? I eyed him carefully. One of the reasons I wanted to leave him in Mire was so the greedy assholes of Astapor didn't try anything with him. Well, Neltharion peeked out the car with an innocent expression and a pair of puppy eyes. I wanted to burn some people that opposed you. First, you do not make puppy eyes because you want to burn people. And second, how the fuck a dog-sized lizard can be cute? I see, was all I could muster to answer. So, can I? Neltharion asked excitedly. Later, for now you must stay hidden. This part of my mission is purely diplomatic, I informed the eager dragon, after I obtained the Unsullied, then just then he could go wild hog on them. Okay, Neltharion hissed with a pout. I'll make sure he hides correctly. One raven said with the utmost confidence. Very well, I nodded, giving my approval. Hey, I can hide very well myself. You will follow our command, young chick. As I tuned out their discussion, I started to walk down to the gates of Astapor. The gatekeeper was signaling me to come closer. The thing with Astapor is that people just don't go in if they have an army. Reason why I was waiting outside. The masters of the city had to approve of my entrance, and even then, I would only be allowed to enter with my guards. I had informed the gatekeeper of my intentions, and they had told me to wait till I was called. You may come in, the gatekeeper called out. The city was even worse on the inside. People dead on the streets, slaves by their look. The sights were something out of a horror movie, and one with an awfully low budget. After roughly 15 minutes of walking to the deplorable place, I was finally guided inside the castle of the masters. The first one to greet me was Krasnus Monaklos. He was utterly disgusting, with an oiled red and black beard that smelled like shit, and with tits bigger than any woman. What sort of business you are looking for here, stupid brat? The man asked in Valerian. The master says, what sort of business you are looking for here? A little girl beside him said, if I had to take a guess, she was Missandei. Missandei was somewhat similar to the actress that played her role. She had a round flat face, with dusky skin, and eyes like molten gold, but unlike in the show where she was a woman, here she was only 10 or 11 by what I could judge from her height and voice tone. Tell the master, I want to buy every Unsullied he has, even the untrained ones, I said with a smile, as I saw the girl translating what I had said. As if he had enough money to do that. The master laughed. Little did he know I knew how to speak bastard Valyrian. Tell him money is not a problem. Missandei did as she was told, translating once again for me. Each Unsullied cost 100 gold dragons in your coin. The total with all the ones we have would be 1,400,000 gold dragons. The master informs, and while I understood, I waited for Missandei to translate. After she translated, I smiled and said, tell him I'll give him 1,200,000 gold dragons, considering some aren't fully trained. Missandei nodded and translated. The master stood silent for a while as if weighing the options. Tell the idiot. We have a deal, the master chuckled. The master accepts your offer, Missandei said. Tell him, I want you as well, that I will throw another 1,000 gold dragons to the deal, I smiled, surprising her. With a nod she translated, the master looked at me and said, you belong to him now, girl. The master accepted. Missandei informed me. Good. Tell him, I'll bring him the money in a month, so to please have my things ready by then, I said as I added, you coming with me in the meantime. Once again she translated, and the master accepted. He said your property will be ready in a month, all 14,000 Unsullied. Good. Let's go, I nodded, with Missandei following me close behind. In the end everything went as I planned. These people were idiots, for as soon as I got my army, I would end them. As I walked out of the slaver city, I smiled at the little Missandei, who didn't even dare to look at me, scared I would strike her for it. Patting her head with my hand softly, I smiled as I said, "No need to be afraid." Missandei looked at me for a brief moment. "This one is yours to do as you please. All I want is an employee, so you are free to do as you please." I chuckled. "You aren't a slave anymore. I might have bought you, but all I bought was your freedom. If you decide to stay with us, then it's your choice." Missandei looked at me for a second, confused with what I was telling her. "This one is grateful, but this one wants to help you. This one belongs to you." "Oh, great. It will take some time to make her understand that I am not tricking her." "As you wish, by the way. What is your name?" I had to ask. While I knew her name, it would save me future questions if I asked her now. "This one is named Missandei." Missandei answered, with an emotionless face, showing full. Deciding I would deal with that later, or even better, let Daenerys deal with that later. I rode with Missandei to my camp close to Astapor. I had to send a raven to Lyce so that I could allocate the funds for this siege in Astapor. It's not like I had the 1,200,000 gold dragons in my pockets at all times. Once I had the gold dragons in my hands, Astapor would fall, and both poetically and ironic their own product would be their downfall. How I love some good poetic justice, I chuckled, imagining the slave masters' faces when I took their city in gold thanks to them. Melisandre POV. Stannis' undoing was written on the fire. He would fall, and from his ashes, my prince would rise. While I didn't know for certain who my prince was, I had a strong and deep feeling it was Ronard Mormont, or the Young Conqueror, as some call him. Even Ned Stark had seen his blinding and magnificent light, and had chosen to follow him. I even had to stop Stannis from attacking the Starks, for they were loyal servants of my champion, and as part of Light, I had to protect them. Ronard was unique in every way, and as the prophecy had foretold, he had started to join the world together, under his banner. All he needed was my guidance, and no one would stand on his mighty way. But first, before becoming entirely his, before letting him use me as his tool, I had to burn his greatest enemies in the West. The Baratheon brothers, both Stannis and Renly, had massive armies. But even they would burn against his might. Renly would die soon, and I would use Stannis to do it. Using Stannis' life force, I would use the shadows to eliminate Renly. The only problem was that I had to have sex with him to do it. After all, a shadow is a type of magical creature born from the light that uses a man essence to be born. I didn't want Stannis touching me anymore. The idea was horrid for me. I was born to be the most loyal servant to the prince that was promised. Serving Stannis in any way was utterly disgusting. But I would do it for my prince. Renly Baratheon POV. I loved Loras. He is and will be forever my everything, my sweet rose of joy and passion. Every time he was out fighting, my heart would drop a beat, thinking he would come back dead. But I knew the gods were protecting him, for he was mine. If only people noticed that I was fit to be a king and stopped opposing me, things would be better. I was born for the crown, but nobody seemed to see that. Lord Stark went as far as to pick a brat over me. What a disappointment. "My king, Lady Tyrell, is here to see you," one of my rainbow knights said, entering my chambers. "Marguerite Tyrell, my betrothed, I had to marry her if I wanted to keep House Tyrell on my side. The idea of betting her disgusted me to no end. If only she was Loras, things would be different. But even a mighty king like me has to make some sacrifices. Send her in." "My king," Marguerite smiled, as she entered my chambers. To Stannis Baratheon POV. Ned Stark had chosen to follow the Mormont brat, instead of me. Where was his honor? His loyalty? If there was someone I thought I could get on my side was him. He was supposed to be bound by honor to me. And yet, he threw all that honor away, because the young bear saved his life. Pathetic. I wanted to march against him, and show him what happens when you betray your king. But Melisandre stopped me, saying this was part of the prophecy, that I had to leave the north alone until I had the crown. As the champion of light, I had to respect the prophecies. I had to respect what Melisandre said. So for now, the Starks would live. Minnerman POV. Unexpected things had come since Ronard was born, but none compared to what had happened a week ago. Not only the Starks were pledging their loyalty to Ronard, acknowledging him as their king, but they also wanted to unite our families with blood by marrying their heir Robb Stark to my daughter Daisy Mormont. I had of course accepted, letting the Starks know that Daisy and Renard had the option to break the betrothal should they feel the betrothal is not fitting. And just as I was sending the Raven to House Stark with my answer, was the point where I knew I had lived too long. We went from one of, if not the smallest house in the Seven Kingdoms, to a royal family. Everything in less than a decade. He made the impossible possible. He was both feared and loved, and I knew he would make a great king, not because he is my family, but because whatever he touches turns gold. I'm too old for this shit. I chuckled. Tywin Lannister POV. Lord Stark had left the battlefield with his banners, going back to the north apparently. He had pledged his loyalty to the young bear. That was very unexpected, but was also just what we needed. The Starks were in their own way, a force to be reckoned with, one that could potentially change the tide of this war, if they happened to join an active side of it. But they didn't. Renard Mormont, while a player of this war game, was as of this moment an inactive player. He would join soon, that much was certain, but that could take months or even years. So the Starks joining him now didn't affect us in the immediate future. For all it meant to us now was that we had fewer enemies to fight off. This, of course, would affect us in the long run, but I liked the long run. It gave me time to plan to craft his fall. Things have just gotten easier for us, I smiled. For once this war was starting to look promising for us. Renard Mormont POV. I had sent the Raven to Lys, and all I had to do now was wait for a month, maybe more depending on things. But I would take advantage of this situation, learning as much as I could from Missandei. Like how Astapor worked, how loyal were the Unsullied, what animals were common in Essos, and how was the slave-free man ratio in each city. This month would prove to be quite educational, but that was just one of the things I would do during this time. After noticing that my poor ravens were not only being overworked, but also were falling short to cover 2 full continents for me, I decided to expand my animal friends. With the help of Neltharion, a few of my ravens, and Missandei knowledge, I would hunt for any animal that had any utility to me. From rats to hawks, anything was possible. Are you ready to hunt? I asked eagerly to the confused little girl. This one is pleased to help you, Missandei said. She seems off, Neltharion hissed, scaring her. I had forgotten entirely that she had yet to see him. A dragon! Missandei was scared and fascinated. And dumb, what else can I be? A mutant gecko, Neltharion hissed with a lot of sass. Yes, a dragon, or mutant gecko, your pick, I chuckled. Hey, a mutant gecko hissed in the background. 1 month later, the money I needed was finally here, 1,200,000 gold dragons. With it, I would buy the Unsullied and destroy Astapor. During this month, I had increased my animal friends with different animals. I had acquired 200 owls, 3,000 rats, 2,000 mice, and around 200 new snakes. It was in the end quite a productive month. Now it was time to move forward and show the masters the power of irony. Missandei, today will be the fall of Astapor. I smiled at the little girl, who looked at me for a second with confusion flowering inside of her. During this month she had tried to figure out what type of master I was, expecting physical, or perhaps sexual abuse, but I had proven her multiple times that I was not like the bastards she served in Astapor. A part of her already knew this, but she was still reluctant to believe such thing existed, and was afraid to let her guard down. But we were getting there. This one will be your side, Missandei smiled, almost imperceptibly. Can I burn them now? Neltharion inquired as he got out of the bed. I looked at Neltharion, who had grown a lot during this month, going from dog size to bear size, and smiled. Yes, you can. Neltharion looked at me with a wide smile, as he hissed, You won't regret it. Dad, I will burn them all. I'll make you proud. I chuckled at his enthusiasm. Yes, you will. The Plaza of Pride was just like everything in Astapor, in a pitiful state that made you wonder how the fuck they got to that point. But I wasn't here for the sights anyways. I was here for the Unsullied. With them I would destroy the city and rebuild it from the ashes. My plan was simple: to use their own product to destroy them. But it seemed the master's stupidity was beyond what even I had expected, because not only they were selling me every Unsullied soldier available in their rooster, with a few minor exceptions, but they had also allowed my army to enter the city this time. So instead of the original 14,000 soldiers I expected to have during this raid, because I expected them to have some brains or at least a sense of self-preservation, I would have around 29,000 soldiers and a dragon, which would make this siege, this massacre, incredibly easy. Do you have the money? The master inquired in bastard Valyrian with a greedy smile. I do, I answered. Missandei was by my side, but I had instructed her to be silent. I wanted to be the one dealing with the masters for today. Oh, the little bitch taught you some Valyrian. The master laughed with some concern. No, but it's my wife's mother language. I chuckled, letting him know that I knew before buying Missandei how to speak Valyrian. So how about we do this? The master eyed me for a second before nodding. Let's. With a smile, I ordered my men to start bringing the treasure chests with the gold coins I had promised them. Each chest had around 100,000 gold dragons, so in total I had brought 12 treasure chests. The master had his slaves count the money as he offered me during this time some tea or women to fuck while we waited. I obviously rejected his offers, for anything coming from him disgusted me. After a few hours, the count was finally done. Well, this was certainly a pleasure, the master said with a disgusting smile, giving me a whip, also known as Harpy Fingers, as the Unsullied started to march into the plaza. The Harpy's Fingers is the name of the whip used to scourge slaves in Astapor. Taking a deep breath, I looked at the whip. The handle was made of something black that was elaborately carved. It also had 9 leather lashes trail from it, each tipped by a gilded claw. The pommel had a woman's head with pointed ivory teeth. This whip was given to new masters of the Unsullied as a mark of payment. Will they obey any command? I inquired with a smile. The master laughed. My beautiful creatures will obey any command you give them. Unsullied, jump once, I commanded, and without hesitation they did as they were told. Kneel, once again they followed my order without hesitation. I told you, blindly loyal, the master said with pride. And that will be your outdoing, blind loyalty, good to know. Turning to my Unsullied, looking at them, with a smile I said, Unsullied, slay the masters, slay every soldier, slay every man who holds a whip but harm no children, and strike off the chains of every soldier. Once again, without hesitation, the Unsullied did as they were told, and started to slay the masters in the plaza. The master looked at me with panic as he shouted to the Unsullied, while pointing at me, I am your master. Kill him. Kill him. I smiled, holding the whip close to his face. Not anymore. With that said and done, I decided to make things even more poetic by whipping the master to his grave, as my newly acquired Unsullied battalion, alongside my Khalazar, started to take over the city. Time to burn. Neltharion hissed, flying above the city. Good heavens, I had instructed him to only burn the masters. Sidan, Barristan, sell me POV. Joffrey had dismissed me from the Kingsguard, saying I was too old to be serving as a knight, but that wasn't the real reason behind my discharge. In an unprecedented and unexpected move, from Lord Varys I had been discharged under the grounds that I did not keep King Robert safe, and that age was starting to hit me. But that was just the tip of this political iceberg. I was old, not senile. I knew the Lannisters' motivations were to allow the brat to give a white cloak to his dog, Sandor Clegane, and to allow Queen Cersei Lannister to place her brother Jaime as the new Lord Commander with a seat on the small council. I was angry at this. I had served against my beliefs for my entire life, and this is how I get paid for my services. But I was also happy. After all, I've burned away my years fighting for terrible kings. As man of honor, I had to keep my vows, even if I was serving a drunk or a lunatic. And just for once in my life, before it comes to an end, I want to know what it's like to serve with pride, to fight for someone I believe in. With that in mind, with the opportunity to serve someone I believed in, I was on my way to Essos. I will use what is left of my life to clean my sins with my blade, I muttered, holding the hilt of my blade tight. Tywin Lannister POV. I leave for 1 week. 1 fucking week. And my children fuck everything once again. While it was true Septimiristen, Salmi was old, his name brought fear into the hearts of our enemies. An asset we needed more than ever. But the idiot I had for a daughter had to meddle in matters that didn't concern her and hurt our side even more. If the old knight decided to serve Renly, Stannis, or the Mormont brat, it would hurt us to no end. I now had to do some damage control before things escalated. It's almost like my children want to lose this war, I muttered. Back to Ronard POV. Taking Astapor was easy. After a few hours, I had complete and absolute control over the city. I was richer, because while the city looked shit, it was loaded with gold, literally. My army was still pulling gold out of the city, and by my estimate, I had not only recovered what I had paid for the Unsullied, but had made that about over 10 times already. My army was officially in the 100,000s, counting the men I had on Westeros. Things were going great today for me. You really meant what you said, Missandei said in disbelief. I do, I nodded, ruffling her hair a bit. Take a good look around, for this is what will happen to every slaver in the known world. Missandei stood silent for a second, seeing the dead masters on the streets, before she turned her gaze to me with a smile. You said that it was this one choice if this one wanted to serve you or not. Well, this one wants to. This one want to serve the breaker of chains, the father of dragons, the call of the west. This one want to serve you. Holy moly, I stole Daenerys' mojo, and I'll be glad to have you under my wings.